This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this? Dun 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 dun.
This is a sham.
No. Nope.
Y'all, just stop.
Welcome to DBL. It's Monday, September 27th. I'm Tori here with Eric and Al. We're so grateful that you're joining us today. We got some good stories here. Reality star Dog, the bounty hunter.
Doug is his more practical brother. He went into insurance.
He went into insurance, has joined the Gabby Petito case. Late Saturday, Dog was spotted banging on the door of Brian Laundrie's parents' home in Florida. Brian has been named a person of interest in the case and has since been missing since September 14th. Here's what Dog, whose real name is not Doug, it's Dwayne Chapman, said about it on Fox News. Take a listen.
This kid is an outdoorsman, so I think he went to, again, where he's comfortable, to the outdoors. Within 48 hours, we probably will have a location where we start the tracking at. Catching this guy will not bring that much justification, but it'll make sure he doesn't do it again.
Is this PR? Is this helpful, or can they both be true?
Can I ask a question before you answer? Did he think that no one thought to go knock on the door? Like, what was his strategy? Why are we hearing from Dog the bounty hunter? Erica, I get that face.
Yeah, what's
I know
the
that
face
we should
on
not see
Erica?
him on TV, but why is he constantly in our faces and in our lives?
I mean, he's really great at self-promotion, but this isn't about him. I agree that it's as many people who are able to lend some type of help and support to this case, you want to see that.
Right.
But now the story has become about him. There is a family and friends and community that are in a lot of grief over a very unjustified death of a young woman. And now this is a circus frenzy for Dog the bounty hunter. I mean, as a father, you would think that you would have a little bit more decorum about how this is approached. I mean, just the silly video of him knocking on a door, like what's that really supposed to do? So to me, I'm not impressed by this person anyway, and this just feels like an opportunist.
I think it's a much deeper conversation, though, Erica, in terms of our society is now based on self-promotion. Like, jobs are evaporating, automation is happening, people have to really kind of self-sustain. And so you find tragedies and you have to have a podcast about it. You have to make a spectacle about it because there's nothing to do.
But what if
there used to be jobs at GM.
Right,
there used to be hundreds of thousands of nursing jobs. There still are a lot. But there's nothing for young people to do, so they're living in a van and YouTubing it.
But what if, and I hear you, the gig economy has completely changed the way we need to promote ourselves. But what if, with all this publicity, he finds him? Is that good? Is that bad? What if he does find him? What does that say about our own FBI? I mean, that's what I kind of question.
You know what would have been far more impressive is if he would have stayed off the radar and done what he, I presume, is good at, and then have that conversation after. But all of this
I hear you.
spectacle feels very disrespectful to a very tragic situation.
That's a fair point. I think if he did it quietly, you're absolutely right. Well, Gabby Petito's family held a memorial for their 22-year-old daughter. Like we were saying, that is a human being, a person, a daughter. It was in Long Island over the weekend, and Gabby's father, Joe Petito, had some advice for people in relationships. So please take a look and listen to this.
If you knew Gabby, she was always pretty a happy girl. People would gravitate towards her. Her nature was always to smile and treat everybody kind. If there's a relationship that you're in that might not be the best thing for you, leave it now.
If you didn't hear that, if you have a relationship and it's not the best thing for you, leave now. It reminds me, Erica, of what you talk about testimony teaching. I mean, this man is going through it right now, and because of that, he's trying to give advice at the memorial. What do you think about his advice?
Yeah, I think, it's a very generous thing when someone takes their personal tragedy and loss and creates a narrative in order to help other people.
Yeah.
And for him to do that, especially in that moment, that's a very generous testimony. Will it fall on deaf ears? Presumably so, because we do understand that when it comes to, domestic violent relationships, it's not as easy for some people just to leave. But there may be one person who is going to look at this entire situation, see themselves in this situation, and that will be the catalyst for them to leave today.
Amen.
And when you're telling your story, you know, maybe it's about just that one person, but that's a catalyst for a life change, and I think that's important too.
Al, do you want to follow that at all?
I just want to say, I think it starts, obviously he's giving a very eloquent speech at his daughter's funeral. Maybe these conversations should have started when she was in the 5th and 6th grade, to help people recognize toxic toxic relationships and how to avoid them, what gaslighting is, what potential violence is, how it leads up.
Controlling it.
Yes,
Yeah,
how
right.
you know how they isolate. They tend to use certain language. It's a repetitive cycle, but we keep seeing, unfortunately, these young women and young men that fall into the web of these people, because maybe by the time they realize that they're in over their head, they feel like they've already married this person or had 3 kids with this person and they can't leave. So maybe helping people recognize earlier, because it seemed like he's a troubled young man. That's sheer conjecture on my part, but the anecdotes we've heard, it sounds like he had trouble.
Yes, I agree.
You don't know that those conversations weren't had in some capacity. I remember I was told stories long before I was even allowed to date about the idea of someone putting their hands on you, the idea of someone speaking to you disrespectfully, you know, but then also sometimes you don't really understand what that means until you're in that situation.
Yeah, and when you're in it, it feels almost too late sometimes. I know what you mean.
Isn't it weird? We're almost using the same language we do when you talk about cults. Like by the time you realize you're in it.
It is. It's a lot of brainwashing.
Right. You're just like, oh, it's part of this club, and then all of a sudden
you're in.
You haven't talked to your dad in 6 years.
Exactly.
It's very weird.
Well, spread that message because it's important. This one is an important story too. Facebook is hitting back against reports that its Instagram app is bad for the mental health of teenagers, especially girls. So listen up. They're also putting their plans to roll out a version of the app for kids on hold. Here's what the head of Instagram said on the Today Show. Take a look.
I have to believe that a world where there's a version of Instagram that's designed for tweens, one where there's no ads, where there's age-appropriate content, and one where a parent can choose to let their child use it and control things like who they follow and who they message, is better than the alternative. I do want to be very clear that if anybody leaves using Instagram feeling worse about themselves, that's an important issue that we need to take seriously and that we need to figure out how to address.
But you didn't. I'm sorry, I'm very into this story. They knew. They had internal reports from Facebook that Instagram was, quote, toxic to teenagers. 6% of American teenagers users trace their issue of suicidal thoughts to specifically Instagram. 13% of British girls did that immediately to Instagram. They knew, they hid it, and now they're trying to roll out one for kids. It's like the nicotine, what's the name? Philip Morris, when they all said, we don't think nicotine's addictive. They knew, and it's a cover-up. I promise you this. That's my conjecture.
Well, that's great because you don't smoke. However, you will put this clip on Instagram. I think there is a personal accountability that needs to take place here. When we're talking about children, children have parents, and your parents are responsible for what you do. My parents were never popular with me because I was not allowed to do what everybody else did. And for that reason, I do feel a very different feeling about this. When are we going to take responsibility for what we allow our children to do? You don't have to be popular with your child if you're trying to protect them, and that's the role of a parent.
But is it realistic to think a kid in these days would not, a teenager girl, get on Instagram?
In a particular home, yes. I mean, we cannot just allow, I mean, you said the whole thing about smoking. Yes, of course we understand that smoking is bad for you. Do people still smoke? Of course they do, because they're taking that role onto themselves. But when we're talking about children and your household, as a parent, that is your responsibility.
But it's like ice cream stores now on every corner for kids. It's like, it's not so easy to just say, stay off social media, which I hear your parents did successfully, when it's every single place you could get phones, you could get, to me, it's like, it's hard to say that, but I'm not a parent as well.
I just wonder why we're asking the same kind of personality type that would have such a dominating personality that they would create something like Instagram and take over the world with it, to also have compassion, because those kinds of people go into social work. They don't go into dominating the world. So us asking Instagram to all of a sudden have this compassion, which we all like for them to have, I think is pushing it.
Wow, cynical. Interesting take. Good talk. Coming up on DBL, could you be single because of your food habits? A new poll's ranking the worst food-related offenses, and Chelsea Handler's dishing the deets on our pandemic sex life. Oh yeah, you don't want to miss our hilarious interview. That's coming up next.
Closed captioning provided by
Yeah,
Let's
definitely.
talk about also
parent on the panel.
Right.
Yeah, talk about as a
not only am I a parent, I'm a parent of a young girl
Teen
that's
girl.
about this age. And, you know, it's one of those things where I think what I have tried to do, and her mother and just all the people around her have tried to do, is encourage the things that she's into.
Yeah.
And not just constantly always double down on, like, do you want me to take you to the mall? It's like, she's also into anime. She is also into painting. She plays around with the idea of maybe being a chef. So I try and push towards those. And, like, I think people head towards the direction of positive reinforcement. And when you're only told that you're pretty, or you're only told that you have a nice body, and you post it on Instagram and that is reinforced, what do you expect them to do? Everybody
What if you're a
starts
dad,
doing
like, or a parent, it's a single family and they're working 2 jobs. It's hard to always be in control now that it's so prevalent. Like, to me,
Well,
it just
that's
feels like
what-
it seeps in
most
everywhere.
vulnerable.
And I understand what you're saying, but then the truth is, too, like, there are apps and there are ways to control how long someone is on using a device. I mean, we have, you know, a situation where we volunteer with young kids and their apps and their things go off at the same time every time they're with us. We also know when we get to the restaurant, they won't have that, so we need a plan B. I think when you are having these conversations, though, it's very much like, you know, people will talk about climate change and energy sources, and not realizing that your iPhone that you're going on to Twitter to make all of these complaints about are made with petroleum products. So the streets that you drive on are made with petroleum. So it's like we always have to look at what our personal responsibility is as opposed to just constantly pointing the fingers at everybody else, because that's the easy way out.
I mean, we're all implicated in some way in this society.
Absolutely.
It doesn't
And
make
it's
you a
all-
bad
it's
person, it makes you a
fine.
person.
What responsibility
It's fine,
does
but
Instagram
take
have,
that
right?
responsibility and then let's share the responsibility.
Welcome back to DBL. Uh-oh, elbows on the table, huh? Table manners?
Yes.
Do they matter to you? Especially when it comes to someone you're interested in romantically. According to a new survey, 3 out of 5 people would end a date over bad food habits. So which ones are the most annoying? All right, let's get the music going. 68% say it's talking with your mouth full. 64% can't stand loud chewing. 63% can't take it when their date chews with their mouth open. That's the scariest photo I have ever seen. But get this, only 44% of people are bothered by someone who double dips. We all know the famous Seinfeld episode. Did you double dip?
Erica,
Did
I heard you make a
double
noise about double dipping. It's not that bad.
What?
I don't
know
like
you
when
don't
people
think
blow
so.
up about double dipping.
I know
Like,
you don't think
it's
so,
not
Al.
that. Do you know what's on a door handle when you grab it? Like, double dipping's not that gross.
That's interesting.
Stop it.
Al will take my drink and drink it, and then he'll be like,
Pre-pandemic.
oh, here, and to give it back, I'm like, I don't want that. After you literally just took my personal drink, downed a bunch of it, and then handed it back to me.
Are you going back 2 years to pre-sober Al?
No. That was not 2 years ago. That was literally like maybe 2 months ago. You will also, if I leave something on my desk,
It's
now,
up for
I
grabs
will
for Al.
wash my hands before I go into my personal bag of chips or whatever I'm eating.
Okay.
Al will do a million things and stick his grubby hands into the bag, which then I just give him the bag of whatever it is, because I'm like, I don't even trust my germs. Why would I trust yours? No, double dipping is like, no.
Okay.
Whoa, let's hear and your response,
Allow
sir.
me to retort.
A retort. A retort.
The introduction of somebody else's germs into your immune system actually makes you stronger. I love you, Erica, as a friend, as a mentor, and I feel like when I stick my grubby hands in whatever you're eating, and I passively, aggressively then wind up with that bag of chips or drink, I feel like that's a win for me.
Of course it
When
is.
I win, we all win. And then I go out and I take some of that positivity and put it in the community. So really what we're doing
Well done, Al, guys.
is
Well done.
benefiting everybody, Erica. And I think now that I've given you something to think about during the commercial break, we'll let Tori move ahead.
Wow.
She's going to kill me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, you owe me. chips.
Oh man, what's your least
Erica always
favorite?
has good snacks.
She is good. She always does have the good gummies. She's good gummies and snacks and chips. What's your least favorite? Really, the one that gets you? Some people like have a chewing thing. Like, is there one that really gets you?
Slurping. The slurping,
soup.
yeah, I cannot stand that.
The slurp.
And just like Al's ridiculous reasoning, my husband will say, well, in some cultures,
I was gonna
it's
tell you that.
considered, and I do understand that he was a part of a group where that culture was prevalent, and so he
Slurping
feels,
is seen as okay.
Yes, but I'm like, for people, black people from the west side of Chicago, we say no.
You say no.
And please don't do that in front of me.
Oh boy, now we know the rules.
What about when you have a mixed drink and
By the way-
stuff at the bottom? There's booze and soda in there. You got to get that last little
Al,
slurp part.
I gotta tell you, Mazel Tov on making a terrible argument out of nothing. Great job, bravo. Coming up on DBL, our interview with Chelsea Handler, from pouring vodka in Joe Coy's ear to the greatest advice she's given on her podcast. It's all there coming up next.
Chelsea.
Rapid tests, also known as antigen tests, have been approved for at-home use for months now. They aren't as accurate as the PCR nose swab tests you get at a clinic, but results are available quickly and without the hassle of a long line. Unfortunately, the kits can be pretty hard to find in stores, but that isn't the case everywhere. In Europe, at-home COVID test kits are widely available and often free or very cheap. So why don't you have as many here in the U.S.? Well, the New York Times says it all comes down to how we approve new medicines and products. The FDA has a very strict set of standards that at-home test kits have to meet. Companies have to prove their test is nearly as sensitive as the PCR swab test, and so far only a few brands have made the cut. But some health experts argue we don't need perfect at-home kits, we just need good enough. There's a growing argument for the FDA to accept less sensitive at-home kits so they can be more widely available. Research shows even the less accurate kits are still pretty good at identifying symptomatic cases of COVID, and with tests in such high demand, some experts argue anything is better than nothing.
Stop thinking about what you expect out of life and start thinking about what life expects out of you. Ugh. It's a really tricky time right now. I feel like to go to a real therapist. He said, I think you lack empathy. Like a Republican?
Welcome back to DBL. Chelsea Handler is on a very short list of women who have hosted their own late night talk show. And for her, the show goes on. In fact, you might be able to catch her new comedy tour in a city near you. We got up with her earlier in today's Chatting with the Stars.
Good morning, boys and girls. How are you?
That's appropriate. We've been acting
we've
like
been acting,
children
yes.
all
So
day.
true.
We are doing well. It's so good to have you on here, Chelsea. We talk a lot about mental health here on this show and how laughter definitely can be the best medicine. Since you're big on therapy, myself as well, how has it helped you make people laugh?
Well, it's made me calm down, which was the biggest problem, because I just found people so incredibly annoying. Even when I was on stage and I was the one holding the microphone, I somehow still found people annoying. So I had to really go in there and just say, listen, I have no patience, and yeah, everyone annoys me. I need to like break this down. So it kind of, you know, once you get a little gift, I call it the gift of self-awareness, right? Wow. You're paying somebody to tell you what's wrong with you? And I think that's the greatest transaction that it's the best investment I ever made. So it just kind of calmed me down and made me realize, to stop thinking of everything from my own perspective and kind of take in what other people are experiencing that are unlike me. And then that makes you a kinder, kind of more patient person. So I needed a professional doctor to explain all of that to me.
Shout out to therapy. Now, your new comedy tour, and I appreciate you naming this so I can say this on TV, is called Vaccinated and Horny.
Yes.
Now,
Did you have to say it like that?
I got to put a little stank on it. All right.
Wait. He and I practiced this all morning. He said it perfectly.
Called me 4 o'clock in the morning. Get up. Now, I have to know, based on the title, what is the funniest thing about people having sex during the pandemic?
Well, my funniest experience about that during the pandemic was having my own COVID tests at my house, because at a certain point, after like 2 months, I realized, well, wait a second, this could go on for years, and I would like to make sure that I am keeping myself active, So I got my own COVID. They were called Q Health COVID tests. I had them in my house, so I would invite potential suitors to my backyard, where I would give them promptly, as soon as they arrived, a nasal swab, and then I would put it in the cartridge in my kitchen, come back outside and interview them for the next 30 minutes. And if they said anything that was annoying, like, I don't think masks work, or I saw a pinky ring, for instance, then I would come out and say, I just got your test results, you're positive, you're gonna need to leave.
Your pinky ring positive. Yeah. That's hilarious. All right, let's get dirty.
Pinky rings, yeah, that's a deal breaker. It's like seeing a studded belt. You're in and then you're out. You're like, oh
no more. Let's get dirty. Earwax dirty. I have small tubes, and I want to talk about this ear thing that's going on with you.
Sounds like a euphemism.
It kind of is, but she knows what I'm talking about.
Oh.
Yes, we recently had fellow comedian Joe Coy on our show. He shared a surprising hack of yours, which I've been loving. You pour vodka in people's ear to clear out trapped ocean water. Now, we warned our viewers not to try it, but we got to know, how did you discover this hack? I use hydrogen peroxide and some Hope.
Hope?
Yeah. Hope. Oh, yeah. Hope is always good. Hydrogen peroxide will work. Isopropyl will work. Any of those things. I just love Belvedere, so I just figure, if I could pour that in somebody's ear, why not? That's my vodka of choice. But it does work.
It does.
I mean, I'll say it. I'll absolve you guys from any guilt. I'm not a medical practitioner or a doctor, but I like to think that I am. So I try all of my little things on my friends. But someone taught me that on a boat once, because I couldn't, when you're dumping around trying to get the water out of your ear and look like a giant idiot, somebody was like, you could just pour alcohol in it, and then you feel the sizzle, and it just evaporates. And you're like, oh, it's almost kind of addictive. I'm like, I want to get some more water in my ear.
Chelsea, you're not a doctor, but you do give good advice on your podcast. What's the best advice that you ever gave someone?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is good.
One guy, Shane, called in, and he had been smoking too much cannabis, and he said he wasn't getting stoned anymore. And I said, well, let's do a 30-day break. I'll do it with you in solidarity. Let's clear your head out. You shouldn't be smoking that much cannabis anyway. If you can't get stoned, what's the point? And we did a 30-day break. And when he called back, he said in that time, he gained so much clarity that he came out to his family as trans. Wow. And he had been hiding that for years. And he had gotten a different job. Like, just taking that 30-day break for him was life-changing. And, that's when I would realize, I'm like, okay, I need to take this more seriously, because people are taking me seriously, I mean, the people who are calling, obviously not the whole world, thank God. But the people that are calling, I want to have an impact that's positive, that feels like you've got, your big sister in your corner.
DBL Nation, you can check out the dates for Chelsea's new comedy tour by visiting chelseahandler.com. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for keeping it real.
She's the best.
We'll be right back.
Thanks, guys.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Seeing photos or memes like this one on your social media feeds? The last 4 digits of your phone number describes you. Or a survey asking you to post answers to questions like, who's your childhood best friend? This one asks you to share something called your Star Wars name, using your mother's maiden name and the city in which you were born. Regardless of the intention of these types of posts, they all encourage people to share personal information in their responses.
They will ask you to indicate, what your mother's maiden name is, or what the model of your first car was. And these are security questions, right? For bank accounts, for insurance accounts.
The Better Business Bureau said it's seen an increase in these types of scams during the pandemic, when more people have turned to social media to connect with friends and family. In its 2020 Scam Tracker Risk Report, the Better Business Bureau reported a 24.9% increase in the amount of scam reports it received from 2019 to 2020. It can be very difficult to prosecute these data breaches once your information is exposed, so the key is to avoid engaging with these posts in the first place.
You don't need to be, completely afraid every time you get online, but if something feels fishy or if something feels like you're giving away too much information, you probably are.
You can use Facebook's Privacy Checkup tool to verify what information on your account is public. If you do post information that could be used to answer security questions, it's best to share it only with people you trust.
Welcome back to Daily Blast Live. We love sharing what's really going on in the back of the scenes here. And at first it was just me, then it was Al for Mac and Cheese, but finally today we got our glam squad back in. Sheree,
no
Destiny,
more
Kiri.
shiny Al.
We're
no
so
more shiny
thrilled
Al.
that you're here. Thrilled that you're here. We love you guys.
Yes.
We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Medical researchers put cotton mask material through rigorous testing. No surprise, but some of the cotton fibers started falling apart over time. Scientists say that made it slightly harder to breathe out of. But here's the important part. Researchers say the cloth face masks were still just as effective at filtering out airborne particles. Experts also say washing cloth masks is super important. The agency says just toss it in with the regular laundry when it gets dirty. And that's connecting the dots.
Tori Schulman, Al Jackson, Erica Cobb, Jeff Schroeder, Sam Shocker. This is my show, baby. Celebrating our 5th year and going strong, DBL is always all new every day.
Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Dog the bounty hunter dramatically joins the search for Brian Laundrie. Is he just doing it for attention? An all-new Freedom Files wrongfully convicted. A woman spends more than a decade in prison for a brutal crime that never happened.
It's really hard to hear that you are doing these horrific things to innocent children.
A new Britney Spears documentary shows an even darker side to the conservatorship, what her dad is accused of recording for years. And Broadway is back with the Tony Awards, the big winners and even bigger performances that stole the show.
I haven't changed for good.
Oh my gosh.
Are you insane?
This is a sham.
No.
Nope.
Y'all, just stop.
Finally here, drum roll.
Welcome to DBL. It is Monday, September 27th. I'm Sam here with my friends Erica, Jeff, and Al. All right, we got to get to this news story that a lot of you actually have quite the opinion on. So reality star Dog the Bounty Hunter, he has joined the Gabby Petito case. So late Saturday, Dog was spotted banging on the door of Brian Laundrie's parents' home in Florida. Brian has been named a person of interest in the case, and he's been missing since September 14th. Here's what Dog, whose real name is Dwayne Chapman, said about it on Fox News.
This kid is an outdoorsman, so I think he went to, again, where he's comfortable, to the outdoors. Within 48 hours, we probably will have a location where we start the tracking at. Catching this guy will not bring that much justification, but it'll make sure he doesn't do it again.
All right, Jeff, what do you think about Dog joining the case?
My first thought is, does he look for people at night? Because he never takes those sunglasses. that was a weird take, I know. But I was just like, man, he always wears sunglasses. Listen, I think the more people that could put eyes on this or bring awareness to it, right? Because it's become this whole like phenomenon now. It's not even like a missing persons case. It's like a cultural thing that we're doing. And I think that's exactly why he's getting involved, is because he wants some notoriety or recognition from this as well. So I think the more eyes on it, the faster that this man will be found.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this is part of a larger issue, and it's just that in order to market yourself, you need to be out there. Right. Everything is on the internet. Dog needs to get his name in the algorithm because nobody has a real job anymore. People are internet sleuths and people are bloggers and vloggers. And so people have to have a hashtag and how they're going to hit me up and keep those likes going and keep those hearts coming, because that's how we make money now. So it's a little scary, Erica, but I don't know if Dog is just part of the greater ethos at this point.
Well, I would have to say that, being an internet sleuth or a blogger or vlogger could absolutely be a job in this day and age. In fact, people are doing far better doing that than some of the 9 to 5s.
Absolutely.
But I think when it comes down to this, I think you're absolutely right as well. The more eyeballs and the more help, the better. But this comes across as super opportunistic, and the idea that if he were truly trying to help in a greater capacity, perhaps he could have done what he apparently is known for doing, and done it on the DL and then come back and said, I actually found him. That would be far more meaningful than being caught on camera, which seemed like more of a, photo op, knocking on someone's door as if that idea wasn't thought of.
A lot of our viewers agree with you calling him opportunistic. I will say, though, at the end of the day, he has 1,000 tips right now. People are calling that number that he gave out to local stations. So I just hope that they find him, and we'll see if they find him alive, because according to local ranchers out there, they believe that if he is at the Appalachian Trail, that he would have probably gotten eaten by an alligator, because there's so many of them right now out there. So we'll see what happens. Wow. Okay, so Gabby Petito's family held a memorial for their 22-year-old daughter in Long Island over the weekend. Gabby's father, Joe Petito, had some advice for people in relationships. Take a look.
If you knew Gabby, she was always pretty happy girl. People would gravitate towards her. Her nature was always to smile and treat everybody kind. If there's a relationship that you're in that might not be the best thing for you, leave it now.
I think this is a reminder, Eric, I want to hear your opinion, but again, you know, we talk about how everyone's invested in this case, but we forget that this family is mourning.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that everyone has forgotten that this family is mourning, and I think that's why a lot of people are reacting the way that they are for anybody who's trying to use this tragedy for personal gain. This is a father who's just lost his daughter, and his first idea is to put out, based on his tragedy, a warning to other people who might see themselves in his daughter's case, in his daughter's situation. And when we get a personal testimony, I call that being a testimony teacher, it's of the utmost generosity, because you could really use your emotions to protect yourself, but to think about others in this time. And even if it's just one person who will think of their domestic violence or toxic relationship different, then that's worth that entire moment.
Well said. I just have a correction before we move on to the next story. Dog the bounty hunter believes he's in the Appalachian Trail. The local ranchers said that if he is indeed in the swamps of Florida, which many of the experts believe, it would be the swamps of Florida where the crocodiles and the alligators would not be a good situation
That's
for
because
him.
of those mountain gators.
Yeah,
I was worried about
the
those
altitude gators.
Yeah, that's a
All right.
Division II school. It's okay.
The Fighting Gators, Appalachian State.
Okay. All right, we're moving on to the next story. A woman in Maine has found herself in a bit of trouble after her alleged plan to spend more time with her boyfriend went south. Police say she called in a bomb threat to her boyfriend's work so he would be sent home and they could spend more time together. Now she's been arrested and charged with a felony count of terrorizing.
What is wrong with people?
I mean, Sam, we never hear from you. Like, what do you think? How do you handle this? Like, do you think we need to just throw the book at somebody, give her like 15 years just to make a statement? Because that seems like the only thing that works.
Yeah, I think there's got to be stiff consequences, but clearly someone's not in their right frame of mind. And I know that feels like an excuse, but at this, I'm being wrapped. All right. Okay. Coming up on DBL.
I think we all agree.
We're learning about the strict surveillance Britney Spears was under, were private conversations and text messages all copied over to her father. And not only did this woman get accused of a crime she did not commit, the crime never even happened. You don't want to miss this. Brand new Freedom Files. But first, could you be single because of your food habits? A new poll is ranking the worst food-related offenses, and you may want to rethink that double dip. Ooh.
Closed captioning provided by
All right, Erica, you make a good point when I think about Gabby Petito. I think about you because you always bring up, like, I sometimes take the side as like the internet sleuths or reporting on it. And I'm always like, oh, are they going to find her? I don't think about the family right away. And I think a lot of people, that gets away from them. This is somebody's daughter. This is a person that's missing, you know, and all these people are taking advantage of that situation to get their names out there, similar to what Dog is doing. I mean, I think he's doing the greater good, but he's not doing it 100% without any recognition.
Right. I think there's definitely can be two schools of thought. Like, obviously, if someone is in danger and they're missing and there's this, obviously a lot of sensationalism happening because she was a public figure, that can be helpful. But when people are doing it with the intention of self-promotion, how helpful is it in that capacity? You know, like, if there are 1,000 people who have called in, are those people calling in on behalf of the idea that they're fans of Dog the Bounty Hunter? Right. Or are they calling in because they have real information? And that slows down, you know, the process as well for authorities. So I think that there can be two schools of thought simultaneously.
Yeah. I think Dog, it's his job, but how about the people who don't have a job, and this is what they're doing? They're recording everything, and I'm looking for Gabby, I'm looking for this, and they're out there trying. They're making a name for them.
I think a lot of people are opportunistic in this case, and it's really sad. Because I hope it's not. I hope it's not distracting the actual real evidence out there, you know, and the real
People stomping around
That's
all
what I
over
was going
there.
to say.
Yeah.
More than distracting, what if somebody stomps through a crime scene?
Right.
They definitely are.
You know,
they definitely
like,
are.
it's a big deal.
And shout out, what's up? Who's this guy?
I know,
Jeray's back.
Jeray!
Is that crazy?
And we got over here, Kiri. And then we got Destiny over there, Hair.
It's so
over
crazy.
there.
We're back.
And we're welcoming Sierra.
Hi, Sierra.
Welcome back to DBL. Do table manners matter to you, especially when it comes to someone you're interested in romantically? According to a new survey, 3 out of 5 people would end a date over bad food habits. So which ones are the most annoying? We're going to break it down. Here we go. 68% say it's talking with your mouth full. 64% can't stand loud chewing. 63% can't take it when their date chews with their mouth open. But get this, only 44% of people are bothered by someone who double dips. All right, Jeff, I got to start with you. Any of these, all deal breakers?
Yeah, I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them. But you know,
You don't like them, or they're deal breakers?
Yeah, deal
That's
breakers.
a difference.
Okay, so I don't like them. I'll explain.
Okay.
You know what a deal breaker for me is how you treat the waiter or
Yes.
waitress.
Mm-hmm.
If you're running them around and you ordered something, you go, can I get arugula instead of romaine, or can I get more lemons, or can I get this grain instead of that? No, I already foresee the future. You're very difficult. We're never going to dinner again. Chew with your mouth open. Enjoy yourself.
Erica, any deal breakers that we just listed?
I have to say, the double dipping thing just really drives me crazy because you are not accounting for anyone else. If you're eating as a community, you need to love thy neighbor enough to know that that is inappropriate to be putting your germs into a community bowl.
Can you
That's not
share
okay.
with our viewers what you told me a few weeks ago about, like, you had to go to the opposite side of the room? And I do this too with my husband. You had to go to the opposite side of the room. You guys were eating soup.
Yes, the slurping. I cannot do the slurping. And it's at the point where my husband knows that if I just kind of like calmly, I have to just sit there and look at him like, are you almost done? Because I can't, it's just like scratching on a chalkboard. I do not like slurping.
Okay, but can I pose something else? Anthony is a wonderful man.
Okay.
If you guys went on a date and he slurped the first time, and then you never went out with him again, think about the incredible partner you would miss out because of slurping. So was that worth it?
I'm not saying that it's a deal breaker. Now we have to get divorced.
No, I'm
just
saying this was
simply
like a
saying-
first date. If he had done that on the
Right.
first date.
Because these are habits some people don't even realize that they have.
Yeah.
So the true test is if you say something to someone in a loving way, like, I understand that pho is so delicious. I mean, we all understand that now. But maybe you could just eat it a little
Quieter.
No way.
Yes.
Yes.
No,
What?
that's like condescending.
No, it's
not condescending. That's
I'd rather
called
you just tell me. I'd rather you be like, listen, you're getting a little loud with the soup.
Oh,
Not
so you like that? Like when you sat next to me and you used to smack your gums with a banana, I'd be like, yo, you and the banana. And you'd be like, okay, and you'd go take your banana elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Just tell me. Don't be condescending and be like, what, did you make a euphemism?
No, I didn't. I don't know why that go any deal breakers for you.
Yeah, I think
People
small
make
things are a little red flag. And if somebody's doing something that's annoying you the first time you ever meet them, it is going to be stretched out over a longer amount of time. So cut your losses early.
You would cut your losses early if you met your dream girl, but God forbid.
But I don't know if she's my dream girl yet.
Well, what if you thought she was your dream girl, but the one thing that bothered you was her chewing with her mouth open?
I think that's going to lead to other things. If you don't know to keep your mouth shut, what else don't you know? Facts, though.
Wow.
Tell him, Al.
What's that face for?
Like,
if you don't know not to chew with your mouth open at lunch,
stop with the slurping.
No,
it's
chew
like
with
there
the-
are different.
Erica, if I'm
different
chewing-
people have different ways to communicate, and they receive things differently. So I like to go in with kid gloves first, and then I can be an aggressive Jeff and bring the Chicago out.
Yeah, I'd
just don't
rather
call.
start with the
back.
aggressive.
We'll
I'd
be
rather
right back.
start with
you just don't call.
Yeah, just make it.
Fine.
And it's
Rapid tests, also known as antigen tests, have been approved for at-home use for months now. They aren't as accurate as the PCR nose swab tests you get at a clinic, but results are available quickly and without the hassle of a long line. Unfortunately, the kits can be pretty hard to find in stores, but that isn't the case everywhere. In Europe, at-home COVID test kits are widely available and often free or very cheap. So why don't you have as many here in the U.S.? Well, the New York Times says it all comes down to how we approve new medicines and products. The FDA has a very strict set of standards that at-home test kits have to meet. Companies have to prove their test is nearly as sensitive as the PCR swab test, and so far only a few brands have made the cut. But some health experts argue we don't need perfect at-home kits, we just need good enough. There's a growing argument for the FDA to accept less sensitive at-home kits so they can be more widely available. Research shows even the less accurate kits are still pretty good at identifying symptomatic cases of COVID. And with tests in such high demand, some experts argue anything is better than nothing.
Welcome back to DBL. Imagine being imprisoned for more than a decade for a horrific crime that never occurred. It happened to a group of women dubbed the San Antonio Four. Earlier, we spoke with one of them. That's today's Freedom Files, wrongfully convicted.
Sometimes the weight of a secret can be crushing. And 18-year-old Ana Vasquez is holding her secret close.
I have always been a lesbian. At the age of like 7 or 8, I was interested in girls. Was I out? No, I wasn't.
The only people who know are her closest friends, Liz, Christy, and Cassandra.
They were also kind of dealing with the same thing, dealing with the same issues in their own lives.
In July of 1994, the women hang out with Liz while she watches her 7-year-old and 9-year-old nieces. But Ana notices a dark cloud over the little girl's father.
He wanted to be in a relationship with Liz. When he found out that Elizabeth was a lesbian, he just didn't like it.
Less than a year later, the 4 women are indicted after the young girls say they were molested by the group during their summer stay. The girl's Aunt Liz is dubbed the ringleader. She is convicted and sentenced to 37.5 years in prison. Exactly 1 year later, Ana and the remaining 2 women stand trial together. Liz's nieces take the stand in both trials.
My emotions to hearing what the little girls were saying was very heartbreaking, in disbelief, shock. It's really hard to hear that you are doing these horrific things to innocent children.
As a final blow, the prosecution puts a doctor on the stand.
The thing that hurt us was the pediatrician and what she testified to as being signs of sexual trauma.
All 3 women are found guilty of aggravated sexual assault of a child and indecency with a child. They are sentenced to 15 years in prison. Ana quickly learns that her sexual assault conviction puts her in harm's way, so she lies.
For a very long time, I always said that I was in prison for aggravated assault. You know, like I can look like a badass, right?
Then in 2006, a professor who is studying female sex offenders reaches out.
He did his own research on us, on the case, and reached out to an organization that focused on child sexual abuse and the LGBTQ community.
While the Dallas Integrity Unit reinvestigates the case, the youngest victim recants her testimony. Then, the pediatrician comes forward.
She said, this is not true, and had I known the science back then, I would have never testified to it. And I'll never testify to that science now.
In 2016, the San Antonio Four are exonerated.
And the feeling was just, in a sense, it was like, you see, I told you so.
All 4 women are declared innocent.
Anna, thank you so much for joining us here in DBL. Your story is really important.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So looking back on your case, and I know a lot of it must upset you, but is there one specific moment or person that upsets you the most?
There is a pediatrician that was the quote unquote expert witness in this case that, kind of identified us as satanic worshipers at the time. Being so young that I wasn't really familiar of my surroundings in what people were thinking at that particular time.
I'm sorry. I'm shaking my head. I can't believe that Satan was introduced at her trial, and you have to give me a second because I've read this and it's still shocking to me. What was more shocking is, like, after prison, you were able to meet with one of the girls that testified against you. What did you learn about her story in that meeting?
To be honest with you, it was everything that I thought could have happened. This was being told to her to say these horrible things about me. And it was just confirmed during that meeting. She was so brave to be able to come out to tell the truth. Unfortunately, going against her family and being kicked out of what she ever knew, but she was so strong, and I completely commend her for that.
In the early 90s, unfortunately, there were a lot of stereotypes about the LGBTQ community. How did those stereotypes impact your case specifically? And do you believe that your case would have had a different outcome if it happened today in 2021?
That's a very good question. Do I think that it might have been a different time today? Maybe it wouldn't have gone as far as it did. But unfortunately, because I'm dealing with the Innocence Project of Texas as their outreach and education, I still continue to see these flaws in our system. Do I think that it played a part, being a part of the LGBTQ community back then? Absolutely. The stereotype was horrific. There was no public display of affection out there like it is today. It's so much more accepting. But back then, when I was accused of this, it was not accepted at all. It was almost like I was in hiding for so long.
After your exoneration, you said that you felt lost, but you were able to find your purpose again. How did you do that?
I'm one of the fortunate ones, and I thank God every day for that. Because there are so many people that don't find themselves again. They cannot get over the fact that this happened to them, and they've lost so many years of their life. Even though I am completely innocent, I was, compensated by the state of Texas. My record completely, expunged. I still have problems with coping to society. I have problems with trust issues. I have problems with my relationship. There's just so many different things that I think people don't realize that it does have an effect, and it's a long-lasting effect. There has to be changes.
Well said. And to those looking to help, speaking of which, visit the Innocence Project of Texas.org. There are multiple ways you can get involved in the movement of change. Thank you so much, Anna. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Or memes like this one on your social media feeds? The last 4 digits of your phone number describes you. Or a survey asking you to post answers to questions like, who's your childhood best friend? This one asks you to share something called your Star Wars name, using your mother's maiden name and the city in which you were born. Regardless of the intention of these types of posts, they all encourage people to share personal information in their responses.
They will ask you to indicate what your mother's maiden name is, or what the model of your first car was. And these are security questions, right? For bank accounts, for insurance accounts.
The Better Business Bureau said it's seen an increase in these types of scams during the pandemic, when more people have turned to social media to connect with friends and family. In its 2020 Scam Tracker Risk Report, the Better Business Bureau reported a 24.9% increase in the amount of scam reports it received from 2019 to 2020. It can be very difficult to prosecute these data breaches once your information is exposed, so the key is to avoid engaging with these posts in the first place.
You don't need to be, completely afraid every time you get online, but if something feels fishy or if something feels like you're giving away too much information, you probably are.
You can use Facebook's Privacy Checkup tool to verify what information on your account is public. If you do post information that could be used to answer security questions, it's best to share it only with people you trust.
All right, we love sharing your comments. In fact, Katie H. said, I'm about to divorce my husband over loud chewing.
It's an issue. But what if he's
You're not
good
alone.
overall?
What do you mean?
If you're leaving us right now, you can watch the second half of the show online. Watch on YouTube, dailyblastlive.com, or our DBL mobile app. But if you're sticking around, here's what's coming up. Bombshell reports of the strict surveillance Britney Spears was forced into by her father. Could he really read all of her text messages? And who won big at last night's Tony Awards? We're going to chat about the night's best moments.
Medical researchers put cotton mask material through rigorous testing. No surprise, but some of the cotton fibers started falling apart over time. Scientists say that made it slightly harder to breathe out of. But here's the important part. Researchers say the cloth face masks were still just as effective at filtering out airborne particles. Experts also say washing cloth masks is super important. The agency says just toss it in with the regular laundry when it gets dirty. And that's connecting the dots.
Tori Schulman, Al Jackson, Erica Cobb, Jeff Schroeder, Sam Shocker. Celebrating our 5th year and going strong, DBL is always all new every day.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Are you insane?
This is a sham.
No.
No.
Y'all just
It's
stop.
finally here. Drum roll.
Welcome to DBL. I'm Sam here with Erica, Jeff, and Al. Let's get started.
Al's got his light
Oh
on.
my gosh, your flashlight's on, Al.
Is it really?
Yes.
No,
you
how
don't
old
see
are you,
it?
dude? What's going on there?
Oh my
Come on,
gosh.
man, I'm tired. I was trying to shine a light on the audience.
Good one.
Well, it was face down,
was
and
pretty
then you
good.
guys.
It's still on. Just handle it. Another documentary about Britney Spears dropped over the weekend. Controlling Britney Spears alleges that Britney's dad monitored her every move. According to a former staff member of Britney's security team, which was hired by her dad, Britney was under intense surveillance. He said all her conversations were secretly recorded, even in her bedroom. This included conversations with her kids and boyfriend. Watch.
Every single request was monitored and recorded. It really reminded me of somebody that was in prison. And security was put in a position to be the prison guards, essentially.
In a statement, Jamie Spears' lawyer said Britney was aware of the surveillance and all of his actions were within the parameters of Britney's conservatorship. Erica, what do you make of this?
I don't know what to make of it. It seems like a lot of people knew a lot of things and chose now as the appropriate time to say something about it. It just, I question why people didn't come forward with this information earlier.
And I'm a little confused. Did the court order that? Because she's got a court-ordered IUD in, which I say all the time, which seems crazy to me already. So did the court in some way have control to monitor her phones? I'm a little confused.
I think it boils down really quickly to conservatorship laws, right? So it may fall under conservatorship laws. What I think Britney and many people are attesting to is how severely mentally unstable do you have to be to warrant all of this conservatorship parameters. So if it is somebody who is a danger to themselves, a danger to their children, who can't think for themselves, have Alzheimer's, perhaps surveillance and everything under the sun is appropriate. Is Britney, we had Mark Eiglarsh on the show, attorney. You remember Mark Eiglarsh said in his own words that he didn't feel that Britney fell under conservatorship because it's for the most, people that need the most help.
People that are in comas.
Yeah, and if you have a severe mental illness, even that most of the time doesn't fall under conservatorship. So they might be within the realm of it, but perhaps Britney should never have been under a conservatorship.
Sam, I agree with you, and I think a lot of times you're asking questions, Jeff and Sam, you're asking questions, and I think a lot of times these things are opaque. I think when we start talking about mental health, it's not like Erica on the 19th, I'm gonna relapse. It's like sometimes when you realize that somebody that you love is kind of losing the thread a little bit, it's too late, or they're gone, or they were kind of falling off, but then they started back on their meds and they got back on it. So it's a very hard thing to call. So when do you call the conservatorship? When do you call it off? Who can call it off if you no longer can?
I agree with you, Al. I mean, in a normal situation, but I've always said, we've always come to the same sentiment. Britney Spears has never been treated like a human since we first were introduced to her. She's always been treated like a machine. And at the end of the day, I don't feel like anyone was really looking out for her well-being in this conservatorship. It was about protecting that machine and protecting that cash cow. So when I ask why are people coming forward now, the far more noble and braver thing to do would have been to make these allegations at this point transparent when Britney was being spied on when she was trying to get a new attorney, which apparently was something she was trying to do, and she was blocked from doing so because they had all of this documentation of her interactions and her records. So anyone who's coming forward and trying to look at be a hero in this moment and had all this information for years when they knew that this woman was being imprisoned, as this man just said, I'm giving them a side eye. Like, why now?
I think here's the biggest part about this case is, are your intentions nefarious or not? If this was somebody that had good intentions to make sure that they're not going to harm themselves or their children, perhaps under conservatorship protocols, they can listen in on certain things. But to listen in, to have your thumb over them, to make sure that they don't find a new attorney, to make sure that they don't do things to remove you from conservatorship, that points in the direction of nefarious purposes. And I also think the biggest red flag here, if you are, according to Jamie Spears, well enough mentally to go tour and make money, then how are you well enough to not well enough to go and tend to your own personal orders? That's where another red flag came up for me. So I'm glad that she has her own attorney now. I'm glad that he's been removed from conservatorship. To me, there's just way too much smoke. All right, so the Tony Awards made a big return last night. Moulin Rouge, based on the Nicole Kidman film, was the big winner with 10 awards. No surprise there. Aaron Tveit won for his role in Moulin Rouge, but get this, he was the only one nominated. And Adrienne Warren won a Tony for her performance in Tina, the Tina Turner musical. And Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel returned to the stage to sing For Good from the musical Wicked. Take a look. Love me a good musical.
Wicked. That's a good one. It's a good one. Listen, the Tonys aren't as popular as the other award shows, and there's too many, I think, in my opinion. But I wanted to make fun of this, but I'm going to compliment them. Because when I think of actors and talented people, I think of musicals, right? I think anybody, including me, could go up there and learn your lines for the day and kind of act a certain way and have CGI behind you. To go up there for 2 hours and memorize every place you have to be with every word, sing, dance, move, it's really a talent. It really is. And I think they need way more credit. And I don't think a lot of people tune into the Tonys or really care what's going on. But I do want to give them props because to me, that is a huge talent.
Yeah, and it spills over because you feel it. When I went to Hamilton, I was like crying and I was not ready. I was just like, there's tears.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel it. You know, like as a dude, you're not like, I'm going to cry at this play. I was a mess.
Well, there's a lot of emotion in there, but also it's important for people to remember that the curtains have lifted. Broadway is reopened. This was a major milestone for the theater community. So although it wasn't as jam-packed in terms of people who were nominated this year, because it's been 15 months since the curtains have opened and gone up, this was a major thing for a lot of people in the theater community and for the arts in general.
And again, these people aren't sitting in their mansions, right? When 15 months, they had to get jobs, right? Because they don't get paid a lot on Broadway. So they're really putting in the work, and I want to applaud them for that.
I love that.
Look at me. Look at Big Jeff on a Monday.
Oh my gosh. All right, how much would you pay for a pair of Michael Jordan's underwear? Someone paid $2,700 for a pair of MJ's worn undies at an auction over the weekend. The gray and black boxers were donated by MJ's friend and former bodyguard, and even includes a dry cleaning tag with Michael's name on it.
I'm gonna get Jeff's back on this.
Oh.
But and when I say
Jeff's
that,
opinion though.
I know I was saying what you were saying last time about like wanting to make fun of it, but then kind of understanding. Everything has value to somebody.
It's copying me.
Okay, there we go. I'm lazy. I'm intellectually lazy. But this has value to somebody. Like, I watched the show Love After Lockup with my girl, and we always talk about what we would pay for a random item from that show. And I mean, we're like, I'd pay $500 for that napkin. Like, literally, because it means so much. And there is something goofy or silly that you would pay some money for because it has value to you. So I'm going to ask you, is there anything?
Put a price tag on those underwear.
I'm not an MJ fan. LeBron?
Okay, LeBron underwear. No. What would you pay for it?
What's that?
What would you pay for LeBron underwear?
I would not.
Oh.
You buy a napkin from Love After Lockup?
Absolutely.
And you wouldn't get a LeBron underwear?
Absolutely.
Would you buy Justin Bieber's underwear?
What would you pay for Biebs socks? Biebs socks.
No, he has Biebs socks.
No, that Bieber wore.
I don't want like anything that personal.
No.
That's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
Maybe like a shoe from his concert or something.
Cool.
Like autograph.
What would you pay? What's the ceiling?
$10.
$500?
No way. No way.
Erica,
Dude,
you're a big
kidding
fan.
Me? $500 for a Biebs shoe?
Yeah.
Erica, would you ever, let's say you had all the money in the world, Okay, let's take money out of this. You had enough money. Would you buy anything from your favorite celebrity? Whether they wore it, didn't wear it?
Well, Janet Jackson did wear these like super awesome bracelets that had these like little balls in it. So every time she would move, you would hear the shh. And there was like 7 of them, and I just stared at them the entire time. Like I would pay for those. Okay. I haven't forgotten. It's been like 15 years. I haven't forgotten those bracelets.
Gwen Stefani underwear. What's your price tag?
I'm not as in love with Gwen Stefani as you guys think I am.
You made a board out of paper mache.
Sam, that was like really disturbing.
Okay.
You were picked out of the audience.
I did
and it's lit up with Christmas lights.
I know, and I did when I got next to her and we took a selfie on stage. I did go, she smelled beautiful.
So how much for underwear?
I would never buy her underwear. That's disgusting.
Sure.
No, we'll be right back.
Closed captioning provided by
So we're going. So we're talking.
No,
hey, we're talking.
We have a mutual friend.
What were we talking about?
Yeah. How'd you know that?
Oh, the different things that you would buy. I'm not into like memorabilia, personal memorabilia, but there are some really cool items that like, you're like, oh, you know, like the actual scarf that Janet Jackson wrapped her braids in Poetic Justice, stuff like that where you're like, I guess I'm really on this Janet Jackson thing, but she did have the most awesome bracelets. And then I complimented her. I did an interview with her like 15 years ago, and she's like, oh, they were from some super fancy place that I still can't afford to purchase from, but I would totally get them if I had all the money in the world. Yes.
Welcome back to DBL. Facebook is hitting back against reports that its Instagram app is bad for the mental health of teenagers, especially teen girls. They're also putting their plans to roll out a version of the app for kids on hold. Here's what the head of Instagram said on the Today Show.
I have to believe that a world where there's a version of Instagram that's designed for tweens, one where there's no ads, where there's age-appropriate content, and one where a parent can choose to let their child use it and control things like who they follow and who they message, is better than the alternative. I do want to be very clear that if anybody leaves using Instagram feeling worse about themselves, that's an important issue that we need to take seriously and that we need to figure out how to address.
Wow. Well, unfortunately, a lot of teens feel worse about themselves when they go on Instagram. According to Facebook's own investigation, Instagram made a third of teenage girls surveyed feel worse about their body image. Among teens who reported suicidal thoughts, 13% of British users, 6% of American users, all traced back to Instagram. So if I end up feeling icky, which sometimes I often do, or anxious from Instagram, can you imagine how a teenager feels? Not to even forget the fact that these users, these developers, they make sure the app is as addictive as possible, because how do they make money? They make money from keeping you on. So whatever they need to do to give you dopamine, whether it's likes, whether it's different ads, whatever it may be, they're going to make sure that those teenagers stay on.
So are we going to hold the people from Candy Crush to the same standard?
I honestly, I'm not going to even talk about adults right now. I don't think it's appropriate, and I know this is a slippery slope.
It's tough.
I do not think it's appropriate for teenagers to be on social apps.
It's tough. I mean, I agree. I really do. I think it's almost literally like opening up the whole world, and I think as a kid you need to slowly get into it, but sometimes that horse is already out of the barn and the kid is already in there. So like, what do you guys think?
Listen, I don't think we're developed enough as human beings to handle this type of
Our technology
right?
passed us up.
It's and our brains aren't handling it, and I don't think people realize how detrimental that is to adults and especially teen girls. It's a fact. I don't know if you could prove it in court, but it's a fact that suicide is up in teen girls directly related to social media. I know this guy represents Facebook and Instagram. He makes a lot of money doing it, but the people who invented it, like you said, say it's addictive. I don't even let my own kids on there. If you guys are confused about letting your kids on or who's right and who's wrong, check out The Social Dilemma on Netflix and learn a lot about what's really going on with social media.
Obviously, I'm the only one who's not a parent on this panel, but I do think that there needs to be personal accountability, and the moment that we aren't taking personal accountability for what's happening in your household is problematic. You can't always be popular with your children, and parents need to step in and take control of the situation as well, as much as they can. You can't constantly point the fingers at people and not point the finger and take responsibility for what you're allowing in your household.
I totally agree.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. Yeah, and work on
Absolutely.
their self-esteem and playing outside and different things like that. Yeah.
We'll be right back.
We all know that Rapid tests, also known as antigen tests, have been approved for at-home use for months now. They aren't as accurate as the PCR nose swab tests you get at a clinic, but results are available quickly and without the hassle of a long line. Unfortunately, the kits can be pretty hard to find in stores, but that isn't the case everywhere. In Europe, at-home COVID test kits are widely available and often free or very cheap. So why don't you have as many here in the U.S.? Well, the New York Times says it all comes down to how we approve new medicines and products. The FDA has a very strict set of standards that at-home test kits have to meet. Companies have to prove their test is nearly as sensitive as the PCR swab test, and so far only a few brands have made the cut. But some health experts argue we don't need perfect at-home kits, we just need good enough. There's a growing argument for the FDA to accept less sensitive at-home kits so they can be more widely available. Research shows even the less accurate kits are still pretty good at identifying symptomatic cases of COVID, and with tests in such high demand, some experts argue anything is better than nothing.
I'm with the federal branch of the BWI, the Bureau of
Witchcraft Investigations. I'm familiar.
I've been dispatched to follow up on a report of suspicious activity. May I come in?
Detective, I assure you, there are no witches here.
Scary. That was a snippet from the new movie Witch Hunt with actress Elizabeth Mitchell. She's also currently starring in Netflix's top-rated series Outer Banks, and she joins us live. Elizabeth, welcome to PBL.
Killing it,
Hi.
yes.
Great great to see you. So people also know you, of course, from Lost. In fact, a lot of people in our studio are like, oh my gosh, she was my favorite character in Lost. Also in The Purge. Now you're in Witch Hunt, this new movie. We just saw the snippet, just in time for Halloween. James Corden, and we talked about it here on the show, recently went on a rant about how he hates Halloween. How do you feel about the holiday? And do you typically watch scary movies?
I don't so much, and I dress up all the time. I mean, that's the thing, you know, I like, you know, weddings and stuff. I'm like, oh, well, that's an you know, you always get dressed up as an actor. So I don't really get dressed up, but I do put out tons of candy, and I get very excited by all the costumes that come my way. But it's probably not my first choice holiday. Isn't that terrible?
Let me ask you this, Elizabeth. Witch Hunt isn't your stereotypical movie about witches and casting spells. Explain how this is not a typical scary movie, and tell us about your character specifically.
I've been doing this for a long time.
Well, it's a very interesting show because it's what if witchcraft were happening in real life? I mean, that's the idea. And what happens to your powers, I guess? What happens to policing of witchcraft? And my character is Martha, and she runs a safe house for witches, and then all kinds of scary, intriguing, heartbreaking stuff happens. It's really kind of nice. It's a sweet movie.
So Elizabeth, before we started talking right now, I called our mutual friend Bob Merrick, who we both know.
Okay.
And I said, you got anything interesting? There you go. I go, you got anything interesting I could ask Elizabeth? He told me that you do handstands before you go on auditions, or maybe to get rid of the nerves. What's with that?
Is that true?
Well, it's my theory that we don't do great work when we're wanting to be good, right? So the first thing that I do is make a complete fool of myself, and I feel like it helps tremendously. So I'll stand on my hands or do a headstand and talk to people, and generally try to not be in any way, shape, or form trying to impress people, and then I find the work is better. Really, it's not
oddly enough, that kind of makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. It kind of puts something else in your control that you felt out of control about. So
yeah. Oh, I love that way of putting it. Yeah. That's wise. That's true.
You're welcome. You could have that one. Okay, so
I do. I'm taking it.
Yeah. Well, we always talk about how much representation matters, and something that makes Witch Hunt special is that you got to work with a lot of women, including the director and most of the cast. So how did that help tell this particular story?
Oh, I love that. I mean, it is in its core a show about women's power and what happens when women get powerful, and I think that having a lot of women tell that story was probably for the best. There's a gentleness, but a real ferocious strength, a velvet hammer strength, let's say. And I really enjoyed the fact that we had Elle helming all of it, because she is absolutely incredible. I feel like so many of the characters are really her. It was a very happy workplace. We all worked very collaboratively. I like to think that's because we're all women, but who knows?
I've been hearing that this is this generation's Goonies. What do you think about that when people compare the show?
Oh, I love that. That's kind of fun. I loved the Goonies. I thought that was great. I think any kind of a treasure hunt movie usually gets compared to the Goonies because it makes us all feel so good, right? So sure. Works for me.
That's a great comparison. I'll take it, yes.
No, it's a cult classic. DBL Nation, you can see Elizabeth's new movie, Witch Hunt, in theaters and on demand this Friday. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Or memes like this one on your social media feeds? The last 4 digits of your phone number describes you. Or a survey asking you to post answers to questions like, who's your childhood best friend? This one asks you to share something called your Star Wars name, using your mother's maiden name and the city in which you were born. Regardless of the intention of these types of posts, they all encourage people to share personal information in their responses.
They will ask you to indicate, what your mother's maiden name is, or what the model of your first car was. And these are security questions, right? For bank accounts, for insurance accounts.
The Better Business Bureau said it's seen an increase in these types of scams during the pandemic, when more people have turned to social media to connect with friends and family. In its 2020 Scam Tracker Risk Report, the Better Business Bureau reported a 24.9% increase in the amount of scam reports it received from 2019 to 2020. It can be very difficult to prosecute these data breaches once your information is exposed, so the key is to avoid engaging with these posts in the first place.
You don't need to be, completely afraid every time you get online, but if something feels fishy or if something feels like you're giving away too much information, you probably are.
You can use Facebook's privacy checkup tool to verify what information on your account is public. If you do post information that could be used to answer security questions, it's best to share it only with people you trust.
Tomorrow on DBL, a missing geologist's family demands action in the wake of Gabby Petito's case getting so much attention.
I'm not going to give up. I'm not leaving until I see him again.
Don't miss this all-new True Crime Chronicles. Plus, Leah Remini will be here live. What does she think about other famous people leaving Scientology? That's tomorrow on DBL.
Wow. Well, we got some comments for you, Jeff.
Oh, really?
Okay, we got, in regard to the interview with Elizabeth, Sarah says, Big Jeff name dropping.
I didn't name, that's a friend who's not famous.
She said, let me elaborate. Big Jeff name dropping mutual friends, LOL.
That's not a name drop. Anyways, I have a comment from Keith and Mary on Facebook. It says, Appalachian alligators can stand on their back 2 feet, often mistaken for Bigfoot.
All right. We help us every day.
Medical researchers put cotton mask material through rigorous testing. No surprise, but some of the cotton fibers started falling apart over time. Scientists say that made it slightly harder to breathe out of. But here's the important part. Researchers say the cloth face masks were still just as effective at filtering out airborne particles. Experts also say washing cloth masks is super important. The agency says just toss it in with the regular laundry when it gets dirty. And that's connecting the dots.
Tori Schulman, Al Jackson, Erica Cobb, Jeff Schroeder, Sam Shocker.
This is my show, baby.
Celebrating our 5th year and going strong, DBL is always all new every day.
Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Dog the bounty hunter dramatically joins the search for Brian Laundrie. Is he just doing it for attention? An all-new Freedom Files wrongfully convicted. A woman spends more than a decade in prison for a brutal crime that never happened.
It's really hard to hear that you are doing these horrific things to innocent children.
A new Britney Spears documentary shows an even darker side to the conservatorship, what her dad is accused of recording for years. And Broadway is back with the Tony Awards, the big winners and even bigger performances that stole the show.
I haven't changed for good.
Oh my gosh.
Are you insane? This is a sham.
No.
Nope.
Y'all just stop.
Finally here, drum roll.
Welcome to DBL. It is Monday, September 27th. I'm Sam here with my friends Erica, Jeff, and Al. All right, we got to get to this new story that a lot of you actually have quite the opinion on. So reality star Dog the Bounty Hunter, he has joined the Gabby Petito case. So late Saturday, Dog was spotted banging on the door of Brian Laundrie's parents' home in Florida. Brian has been named a person of interest in the case, and he's been missing since September 14th. Here's what Dog, whose real name is Dwayne Chapman, said about it on Fox News.
This kid is an outdoorsman, so I think he went to, again, where he's comfortable, to the outdoors. Within 48 hours, we probably will have a location where we start the tracking at. Catching this guy will not bring that much justification, but it'll make sure he doesn't do it again.
All right, Jeff, what do you think about Dog joining the case?
My first thought is, does he look for people at night? Because he never takes those sunglasses. that was a weird take, I know. But I was just like, man, he always wears sunglasses. Listen, I think the more people that could put eyes on this or bring awareness to it, right? Because it's become this whole like phenomenon now. It's not even like a missing persons case. It's like a cultural thing that we're doing. And I think that's exactly why he's getting involved, is because he wants some notoriety or recognition from this as well. So I think the more eyes on it, the faster that this man will be found.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this is part of a larger issue, and it's just that in order to market yourself, you need to be out there. Right. Everything is on the internet. Dog needs to get his name in the algorithm because nobody has a real job anymore. People are internet sleuths and people are bloggers and vloggers. And so people have to have a hashtag and how they're going to hit me up and keep those likes going and keep those hearts coming, because that's how we make money now. So it's a little scary, Erica, but I don't know if Dog is just part of the greater ethos at this point.
Well, I would have to say that, being an internet sleuth or a blogger or vlogger could absolutely be a job in this day and age. In fact, people are doing far better doing that than some of the 9 to 5s.
Absolutely.
But I think when it comes down to this, I think you're absolutely right as well. The more eyeballs and the more help, the better. But this comes across as super opportunistic, and the idea that if he were truly trying to help in a greater capacity, perhaps he could have done what he apparently is known for doing, and done it on the DL and then come back and said, I actually found him. That would be far more meaningful than being caught on camera, which seemed like more of a, photo op, knocking on someone's door as if that idea wasn't thought of.
A lot of our viewers agree with you calling him opportunistic. I will say, though, at the end of the day, he has 1,000 tips right now. People are calling that number that he gave out to local stations. So I just hope that they find him, and we'll see if they find him alive, because according to local ranchers out there, they believe that if he is at the Appalachian Trail, that he would have probably gotten eaten by an alligator, because there's so many of them right now out there. So we'll see what happens. Wow. Okay, so Gabby Petito's family held a memorial for their 22-year-old daughter in Long Island over the weekend. Gabby's father, Joe Petito, had some advice for people in relationships. Take a look.
If you knew Gabby, she was always pretty happy girl. People would gravitate towards her. Her nature was always to smile and treat everybody kind. If there's a relationship that you're in that might not be the best thing for you, leave it now.
I think this is a reminder, Eric, I want to hear your opinion, but again, you know, we talk about how everyone's invested in this case, but we forget that this family is mourning.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that everyone has forgotten that this family is mourning, and I think that's why a lot of people are reacting the way that they are for anybody who's trying to use this tragedy for personal gain. This is a father who's just lost his daughter, and his first idea is to put out, based on his tragedy, a warning to other people who might see themselves in his daughter's case, in his daughter's situation. And when we get a personal testimony, I call that being a testimony teacher, it's of the utmost generosity, because you could really use your emotions to protect yourself, but to think about others in this time. And even if it's just one person who will think of their domestic violence or toxic relationship different, then that's worth that entire moment.
Well said. I just have a correction before we move on to the next story. Dog the bounty hunter believes he's in the Appalachian Trail. The local ranchers said that if he is indeed in the swamps of Florida, which many of the experts believe, it would be the swamps of Florida where the crocodiles and the alligators would not be a good situation
As
for
opposed
him.
to those mountain gators.
Yeah,
I was worried about those.
Altitude gators.
Yeah, that's a
All right.
Division II school. It's okay.
They're fighting gators, Appalachian State.
Okay. All right, we're moving on to the next story. A woman in Maine has found herself in a bit of trouble after her alleged plan to spend more time with her boyfriend went south. Police say she called in a bomb threat to her boyfriend's work so he would be sent home and they could spend more time together. Now she's been arrested and charged with a felony count of terrorizing.
What is wrong with people?
I mean, Sam, we never hear from you. Like, what do you think? How do you handle this? Like, do you think we need to just throw the book at somebody, give her like 15 years just to make a statement? Because that seems like the only thing that works.
Yeah, I think there's got to be stiff consequences, but clearly someone's not in their right frame of mind. And I know that feels like an excuse, but at this, I'm being wrapped. All right. Okay. Coming up on DBL.
I think we all agree.
We're learning about the strict surveillance Britney Spears was under, were private conversations and text messages all copied over to her father. And not only did this woman get accused of a crime she did not commit, the crime never even happened. You don't want to miss this. Brand new Freedom Files. But first, could you be single because of your food habits? A new poll is ranking the worst food-related offenses, and you may want to rethink that double dip. Ooh.
Closed captioning provided by
All right, Erica, you make a good point when I think about Gabby Petito. I think about you because you always bring up, I sometimes take the side as the internet sleuths or reporting on it. And I'm always like, oh, are they going to find her? I don't think about the family right away. And I think a lot of people, that gets away from them. This is somebody's daughter. This is a person that's missing, and all these people are taking advantage of that situation to get their names out there, similar to what Dog is doing. I mean, I think he's doing the greater good, but he's not doing it 100% without any recognition.
Right. I think there's definitely can be two schools of thought. Like, obviously, if someone is in danger and they're missing, and there's this, obviously a lot of sensationalism happening because she was a public figure, that can be helpful. But when people are doing it with the intention of self-promotion, how helpful is it in that capacity? If there are 1,000 people who have called in, are those people calling in on behalf of the idea that they're fans of Dog the Bounty Hunter? Right. Or are they calling in because they have real information? And that slows down, the process as well for authorities. So I think that there can be two schools of thought simultaneously.
Yeah. I think Dog, it's his job, but how about the people who don't have a job, and this is what they're doing? They're recording everything, and I'm looking for Gabby, I'm looking for this, and they're out there they're making a name for them.
I think a lot of people are opportunistic in this case, and it's really sad. Because I hope it's not distracting the actual real evidence out there, and the real
people stomping around.
That's
all
what I
over
was going
there.
to say.
Yeah.
More than distracting, what if somebody stomps through a crime scene?
Right.
They definitely are.
They definitely are. It's a big deal.
Yeah. And shout out, what's up? Who's this guy?
I know,
Jeray's back. Is that crazy?
And we got over here Kiri, and then we got Destiny over there. Hair.
It's so crazy.
And we're welcoming Sierra. Welcome back to DBL. Do table manners matter to you, especially when it comes to someone you're interested in romantically? According to a new survey, 3 out of 5 people would end a date over bad food habits. So which ones are the most annoying? We're going to break it down. Here we go. 68% say it's talking with your mouth full. 64% can't stand loud chewing. 63% can't take it when their date chews with their mouth open. But get this, only 44% of people are bothered by someone who double dips. All right, Jeff, I got to start with you. Any of these, all deal breakers?
Yeah, I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them. But you know,
you don't like them, or they're deal breakers?
Yeah, deal breakers.
That's a difference.
Okay, so I don't like them. I'll explain.
Okay.
You know what a deal breaker for me is how you treat the waiter or waitress. If you're running them around and you ordered something, you go, can I get arugula instead of romaine, or can I get more lemons, or can I get this grain instead of that? No, I already foresee the future. You're very difficult. We're never going to dinner again. Chew with your mouth open. Enjoy yourself.
Erica, any deal breakers that we just listed?
I have to say, the double dipping thing just really drives me crazy because you are not accounting for anyone else. If you're eating as a community, you need to love thy neighbor enough to know that that is inappropriate to be putting your germs into a community bowl.
Can you
not
share
okay.
with our viewers what you told me a few weeks ago about, like, you had to go to the opposite side of the room? And I do this too with my husband. You had to go to the opposite side of the room. You guys were eating soup.
Yes, the slurping. I cannot do the slurping. And it's at the point where my husband knows that if I just kind of like calmly, I have to just sit there and look at him like, are you almost done? Because I can't, it's just like scratching on a chalkboard. I do not like slurping.
Okay, but can I pose something else? Anthony is a wonderful man.
Okay.
If you guys went on a date and he slurped the first time and then you never went out with him again, think about the incredible partner you would miss out because of slurping. So was that worth it?
I'm not saying that it's a deal breaker. Now we have to get divorced.
No, I'm saying this was like a first date. If he had done that on the first date.
Because these are habits some people don't even realize that they have.
Yeah.
So the true test is if you say something to someone in a loving way, like, I understand that pho is so delicious. I mean, we all understand that now. But maybe you could just eat it a little quieter.
No way.
Yes.
Yes.
No,
What?
that's like condescending.
No, it's
not condescending. That's
I'd rather you be like, listen, you're getting a little loud with the soup.
Oh, so you like that? Like when you sat next to me and you used to smack your gums with a banana, I'd be like, yo, you and the banana. And you'd be like, okay, and you'd go take your banana elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Just tell me. Don't be condescending and be like, what, did you make a euphemism?
No, I didn't. I don't know why that any deal breakers for you.
Yeah, I think small things are a little red flag. And if somebody's doing something that's annoying you the first time you ever meet them, it is going to be stretched out over a longer amount of time. So cut your losses early.
You would cut your losses early if you met your dream girl, but God forbid.
But I don't know if she's my dream girl yet.
Well, what if you thought she was your dream girl, but the one thing that bothered you was her chewing with her mouth open?
I think that's going to lead to other things. If you don't know to keep your mouth shut, what else don't you know? Facts, though.
Wow.
Tell him, Al.
What's that face for?
If
you don't know not to chew with your mouth open at lunch,
stop with the slurping.
No,
it's
chew
like
with
there are different.
Erica, if I'm chewing,
people have different ways to communicate, and they receive things differently. So I like to go in with kid gloves first, and then I can be an aggressive Jeff and bring the Chicago out.
Yeah, I'd rather start with the aggressive. I'd rather start with.
You just don't call.
Yeah, just be like, hey, man, it's disgusting.
Rapid tests, also known as antigen tests, have been approved for at-home use for months now. They aren't as accurate as the PCR nose swab tests you get at a clinic, but results are available quickly and without the hassle of a long line. Unfortunately, the kits can be pretty hard to find in stores, but that isn't the case everywhere. In Europe, at-home COVID test kits are widely available and often free or very cheap. So why don't you have as many here in the U.S.? Well, the New York Times says it all comes down to how we approve new medicines and products. The FDA has a very strict set of standards that at-home test kits have to meet. Companies have to prove their test is nearly as sensitive as the PCR swab test, and so far only a few brands have made the cut. But some health experts argue we don't need perfect at-home kits, we just need good enough. There's a growing argument for the FDA to accept less sensitive at-home kits so they can be more widely available. Research shows even the less accurate kits are still pretty good at identifying symptomatic cases of COVID. And with tests in such high demand, some experts argue anything is better than nothing.
Welcome back to DBL. Imagine being imprisoned for more than a decade for a horrific crime that never occurred. It happened to a group of women dubbed the San Antonio Four. Earlier, we spoke with one of them. That's today's Freedom Files, wrongfully convicted.
Sometimes the weight of a secret can be crushing. And 18-year-old Ana Vasquez is holding her secret close.
I have always been a lesbian. At the age of like 7 or 8, I was interested in girls. Was I out? No, I wasn't.
The only people who know are her closest friends, Liz, Christy, and Cassandra.
They were also kind of dealing with the same thing, dealing with the same issues in their own lives.
In July of 1994, the women hang out with Liz while she watches her 7-year-old and 9-year-old nieces. But Ana notices a dark cloud over the little girl's father.
He wanted to be in a relationship with Liz. When he found out that Elizabeth was a lesbian, he just didn't like it.
Less than a year later, the 4 women are indicted after the young girls say they were molested by the group during their summer stay. The girls' Aunt Liz is dubbed the ringleader. She is convicted and sentenced to 37.5 years in prison. Exactly 1 year later, Ana and the remaining 2 women stand trial together. Liz's nieces take the stand in both trials.
My emotions to hearing what the little girls were saying was very heartbreaking, in disbelief, shock. It's really hard to hear that you are doing these horrific things to innocent children.
As a final blow, the prosecution puts a doctor on the stand.
The thing that hurt us was the pediatrician and what she testified to as being signs of sexual trauma.
All 3 women are found guilty of aggravated sexual assault of a child and indecency with a child. They are sentenced to 15 years in prison. Ana quickly learns that her sexual assault conviction puts her in harm's way, so she lies.
For a very long time, I always said that I was in prison for aggravated assault. You know, like I can look like a badass, right?
Then in 2006, a professor who was studying female sex offenders reaches out.
He did his own research on us, on the case, and reached out to an organization that focused on child sexual abuse and the LGBTQ community.
While the Dallas Integrity Unit reinvestigates the case, the youngest victim recants her testimony. Then the pediatrician comes forward.
She said, "This is not true, and had I known the science back then, I would have never testified to it. And I'll never testify to that science now."
In 2016, the San Antonio Four are exonerated.
And the feeling was just, in a sense, it was like, you see, I told you so.
All 4 women are declared innocent.
Ana, thank you so much for joining us here in DBL. Your story is really important.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So looking back on your case, What, and I know a lot of it must upset you, but is there one specific moment or person that upsets you the most?
There is a pediatrician that was the quote unquote expert witness in this case that, you know, kind of identified us as satanic worshipers at the time. Being so young, that I wasn't really familiar of my surroundings in what people were thinking at that particular time.
I'm sorry. I'm shaking my head. I can't believe that Satan was introduced at her trial, and you have to give me a second because I've read this and it's still shocking to me. What was more shocking is, like, after prison, you were able to meet with one of the girls that testified against you. What did you learn about her story in that meeting?
You know, to be honest with you, it was everything that I thought could have happened. This was being told to her to say these horrible things about me. And it was just confirmed during that meeting. You know, she was so brave to be able to come out to tell the truth. Unfortunately, going against her family and being kicked out of what she ever knew, but she was so strong, and I completely commend her for that.
You know, in the early 90s, unfortunately, there were a lot of stereotypes about the LGBTQ community. How did those stereotypes impact your case specifically? And do you believe that your case would have had a different outcome if it happened today in 2021?
That's a very good question. You know, do I think that it might have been a different time today? You know, maybe it wouldn't have gone as far as it did. But unfortunately, because I'm dealing with the Innocence Project of Texas as their outreach and education, I still continue to see these flaws in our system. Do I think that it played a part, being a part of the LGBTQ community back then? Absolutely. The stereotype was horrific. There was no public display of affection out there like it is today. You know, it's so much more accepting. But back then, when I was accused of this, it was not accepted at all. It was almost like I was in hiding for so long.
After your exoneration, you said that you felt lost, but you were able to find your purpose again. How did you do that?
You know, I'm one of the fortunate ones, and I thank God every day for that. Because there are so many people that don't find themselves again. They cannot get over the fact that this happened to them, and, you know, they've lost so many years of their life. Even though I am completely innocent, I was, you know, compensated by the state of Texas. My record completely, expunged. I still have problems with coping to society. I have problems with trust issues. I have problems with my relationship. You know, there's just so many different things that I think people don't realize that it does have an effect, and it's a long-lasting effect. There has to be changes.
Well said. And to those looking to help, speaking of which, visit the Innocence Project of Texas.org. There are multiple ways you can get involved in the movement of change. Thank you so much, Anna. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Or memes like this one on your social media feeds? The last 4 digits of your phone number describes you. Or a survey asking you to post answers to questions like, who's your childhood best friend? This one asks you to share something called your Star Wars name, using your mother's maiden name and the city in which you were born. Regardless of the intention of these types of posts, they all encourage people to share personal information in their responses.
They will ask you to indicate, you know, what your mother's maiden name is, or what the model of your first car was. And these are security questions, right? For bank accounts, for insurance accounts.
The Better Business Bureau said it's seen an increase in these types of scams during the pandemic, when more people have turned to social media to connect with friends and family. In its 2020 Scam Tracker Risk Report, the Better Business Bureau reported a 24.9% increase in the amount of scam reports it received from 2019 to 2020. It can be very difficult to prosecute these data breaches once your information is exposed, so the key is to avoid engaging with these posts in the first place.
You don't need to be, completely afraid every time you get online, but If something feels fishy or if something feels like you're giving away too much information, you probably are.
You can use Facebook's privacy checkup tool to verify what information on your account is public. If you do post information that could be used to answer security questions, it's best to share it only with people you trust.
We love sharing your comments. In fact, Katie H. said, I'm about to divorce my husband over loud chewing.
It's an issue. But what if he's
You're not
good
alone.
overall?
What do you mean?
If you're leaving us right now, you can watch the second half of the show online. Watch on YouTube, dailyblastlive.com, or our DBL mobile app. But if you're sticking around, here's what's coming up. Bombshell reports of the strict surveillance Britney Spears was forced into by her father. Could he really read all of her text messages? And who won big at last night's Tony Awards? We're going to chat about the night's best moments.
Medical researchers put cotton mask material through rigorous testing. No surprise, but some of the cotton fibers started falling apart over time. Scientists say that made it slightly harder to breathe out of. But here's the important part. Researchers say the cloth face masks were still just as effective at filtering out airborne particles. Experts also say washing cloth masks is super important. The agency says just toss it in with the regular laundry when it gets dirty. And that's connecting the dots.
Tori Schulman, Al Jackson, Erica Cobb, Jeff Schroeder, Sam Shocker. This is my show, baby. Celebrating our 5th year and going strong, DBL is always all new every day.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Oh My gosh.
Are you insane?
This is a sham.
No.
No.
Y'all just
It's
stop.
finally here. Drum roll.
Welcome to DBL. I'm Sam here with Erica, Jeff, and Al. Let's get started.
Al's got his light on.
Oh my gosh, your flashlight's on, Al.
Is it really?
Yes.
No,
you
how
don't
old
see
are
it?
you, dude? What's going on there?
Oh my
Come on,
gosh.
man, I'm tired. I was trying to shine a light on the audience.
Good one.
Well, it was face down, and you guys.
It's still on. Just handle it. Another documentary about Britney Spears dropped over the weekend. Controlling Britney Spears alleges that Britney's dad monitored her every move. According to a former staff member of Britney's security team, which was hired by her dad, Britney was under intense surveillance. He said all her conversations were secretly recorded, even in her bedroom. This included conversations with her kids and boyfriend. Watch.
Every single request was monitored and recorded. It really reminded me of somebody that was in prison. And security was put in a position to be the prison guards, essentially.
In a statement, Jamie Spears' lawyer said Britney was aware of the surveillance and all of his actions were within the parameters of Britney's conservatorship. Erica, what do you make of this?
I don't know what to make of it. It seems like a lot of people knew a lot of things and chose now as the appropriate time to say something about it. It just, I question why people didn't come forward with this information earlier.
And I'm a little confused. Did the court order that? Because she's got a court-ordered IUD in, which I say all the time, which seems crazy to me already. So did the court in some way have control to monitor her phones? I'm a little confused.
I think it boils down really quickly to conservatorship laws, right? So it may fall under conservatorship laws. What I think Britney and many people are attesting to is how severely mentally unstable do you have to be to warrant all of this conservatorship parameters. So if it is somebody who is a danger to themselves, a danger to their children, who can't think for themselves, have Alzheimer's, perhaps surveillance and everything under the sun is appropriate. Is Britney, we had Mark Eiglarsh on the show, attorney. You remember Mark Eiglarsh said in his own words that he didn't feel that Britney fell under conservatorship because it's for the most, people that need the most help.
People that are in comas.
Yeah, and if you have a severe mental illness, even that most of the time doesn't fall under conservatorship. So they might be within the realm of it, but perhaps Britney should never have been under a conservatorship.
Sam, I agree with you, and I think a lot of times you're asking questions, Jeff and Sam, you're asking questions, and I think a lot of times these things are opaque. I think when we start talking about mental health, it's not like Erica on the 19th, I'm going to relapse. It's like sometimes when you realize that somebody that you love is kind of losing the thread a little bit, it's too late, or they're gone, or, they were kind of falling off, but then they started back on their meds and they got back on it. So it's a very hard thing to call. So when do you call the conservatorship? When do you call it off? Who can call it off if you no longer can? I
agree with you, Al. I mean, in a normal situation, but I've always said, we've always come to the same sentiment. Britney Spears has never been treated like a human since we first were introduced to her. She's always been treated like a machine. And at the end of the day, I don't feel like anyone was really looking out for her well-being in this conservatorship. It was about protecting that machine and protecting that cash cow. So when I ask why are people coming forward now, the far more noble and braver thing to do would have been to make these allegations at this point transparent when Britney was being spied on when she was trying to get a new attorney, which apparently was something she was trying to do, and she was blocked from doing so because they had all of this documentation of her interactions and her records. So anyone who's coming forward and trying to look at be a hero in this moment and had all this information for years when they knew that this woman was being imprisoned, as this man just said, I'm giving them a side eye. Why now?
I think here's the biggest part about this case is, are your intentions nefarious or not? If this was somebody that had good intentions to make sure that they're not going to harm themselves or their children, perhaps under conservatorship protocols, they can listen in on certain things. But to listen in, to have your thumb over them, to make sure that they don't find a new attorney, to make sure that they don't do things to remove you from conservatorship, that points in the direction of nefarious purposes. And I also think the biggest red flag here, if you are, according to Jamie Spears, well enough mentally to go tour and make money, then how are you well enough to not well enough to go and tend to your own personal orders? That's where another red flag came up for me. So I'm glad that she has her own attorney now. I'm glad that he's been removed from conservatorship. To me, there's just way too much smoke. All right, so the Tony Awards made a big return last night. Moulin Rouge, based on the Nicole Kidman film, was the big winner with 10 awards. No surprise there. Aaron Tveit won for his role in Moulin Rouge, but get this, he was the only one nominated. And Adrienne Warren won a Tony for her performance in Tina, the Tina Turner musical. And Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel returned to the stage to sing For Good from the musical Wicked. Take a look. Love me a good musical.
Wicked. That's a good one. It's a good one. Listen, the Tonys aren't as popular as the other award shows, and there's too many, I think, in my opinion. But I wanted to make fun of this, but I'm going to compliment them. Because when I think of actors and talented people, I think of musicals, right? I think anybody, including me, could go up there and learn your lines for the day and kind of act a certain way and have CGI behind you. To go up there for 2 hours and memorize every place you have to be with every word, sing, dance, move, it's really a talent. It really is. And I think they need way more credit. And I don't think a lot of people tune into the Tonys or really care what's going on. But I do want to give them props because to me, that is a huge talent.
Yeah, and it spills over because you feel it. When I went to Hamilton, I was like crying and I was not ready. I was just like, there's tears.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel it. You know, like as a dude, you're not like, I'm going to cry at this play. I was a mess.
Well, there's a lot of emotion in there, but also it's important for people to remember that the curtains have lifted. Broadway is reopened. This was a major milestone for the theater community. So although it wasn't as jam-packed in terms of people who were nominated this year, because it's been 15 months since the curtains have opened and gone up, this was a major, major thing for a lot of people in the theater community and for the arts in general.
And again, these people aren't sitting in their mansions, right? When 15 months, they had to get jobs, right? Because they don't get paid a lot on Broadway. So they're really putting in the work, and I want to applaud them for that.
I love that.
Look at me. Look at Big Jeff on a Monday.
Oh, my gosh. All right. How much would you pay for a pair of Michael Jordan's underwear? Someone paid $2,700 for a pair of MJ's worn undies at an auction over the weekend. The gray and black boxers were donated by MJ's friend and former bodyguard, and even includes a dry cleaning tag with Michael's name on it.
I'm gonna get Jeff's back on this.
Oh.
But and when I say
You
when
never
I say
heard Jeff's
that,
opinion though.
I know I was saying what you were saying last time about like wanting to make fun of it, but then kind of understanding. Everything has value to somebody.
Copying me.
Okay, there we go. I'm lazy. I'm intellectually lazy. But this has value to somebody. Like, I watched the show Love After Lockup with my girl, and we always talk about what we would pay for a random item from that show. And I mean, we're like, I'd pay $500 for that napkin. Like, literally, because it means so much. And there is something goofy or silly that you would pay some money for because it has value to you. So I'm going to ask you, is there anything?
Put a price tag on those underwear.
I'm not an MJ fan. LeBron?
Okay, LeBron
200
underwear.
No.
What would you pay for it?
What's that?
What would you pay for LeBron underwear?
I would not.
Oh.
You buy a napkin from Love After Lockup?
Absolutely.
And you wouldn't get a LeBron underwear?
Absolutely.
Would you buy Justin Bieber's underwear?
What would you pay for Biebe socks? Biebe socks.
No, he has Biebe socks.
No, that Bieber
I don't
wore.
want like anything that personal.
No.
That's a little weird
You
to me.
would-
Yeah.
Maybe like a shoe from his concert or something.
Cool.
Like autograph.
What would you pay? What's the ceiling?
$10.
500.
No way. No way.
Erica,
Dude,
you're a
you
big
kidding me?
fan.
$500 for a Biebe shoe?
Yeah.
Erica, would you ever, let's say you had all the money in the world, Okay, let's take money out of this. You had enough money. Would you buy anything from your favorite celebrity? Whether they wore it, didn't wear it?
Well, Janet Jackson did wear these like super awesome bracelets that had these like little balls in it. So every time she would move, you would hear the shh. And there was like 7 of them, and I just stared at them the entire time. Like I would pay for those. Okay. I haven't forgotten. It's been like 15 years. I haven't forgotten those bracelets.
Gwen Stefani underwear. What's your price tag?
I'm not as in love with Gwen Stefani as you guys think I am.
You made a board out of paper mache.
Sam, that was like really disturbing.
Okay.
You were picked out of the audience.
I did
and it's lit up with Christmas lights.
I know, and I did when I got next to her and we took a selfie on stage. I did go, she smelled beautiful.
So how much for underwear?
I would never buy her underwear. That's disgusting.
Sure.
No, we'll be right back.
So we're going. So we're talking.
No,
hey, we're talking.
We have a mutual friend.
What were we talking about?
Yeah. How'd you know that?
Oh, the different things that you would buy. I'm not into like memorabilia, personal memorabilia, but there are some really cool items that like, you're like, oh, you know, like the actual scarf that Janet Jackson wrapped her braids in Poetic Justice, stuff like that where you're like, I guess I'm really on this Janet Jackson thing, but she did have the most awesome bracelets. And then I complimented her. I did an interview with her like 15 years ago, and she's like, oh, they were from some super fancy place that I still can't afford to purchase from, but I would totally get them if I had all the money in the world. Yes.
Tori Shulman, Al Jackson, Erica Cobb, Jeff Schroeder, Sam Shocker. Celebrating our 5th year and going strong, DBL is always all new every day. Welcome back to DBL. Facebook is hitting back against reports that its Instagram app is bad for the mental health of teenagers, especially teen girls. They're also putting their plans to roll out a version of the app for kids on hold. Here's what the head of Instagram said on the Today Show.
I have to believe that a world where there's a version of Instagram that's designed for tweens, one where there's no ads, where there's age-appropriate content, and one where a parent can choose to let their child use it and control things like who they follow and who they message, is better than the alternative. I do want to be very clear that if anybody leaves using Instagram feeling worse about themselves, that's an important issue that we need to take seriously and that we need to figure out how to address.
Wow. Well, unfortunately, a lot of teens feel worse about themselves when they go on Instagram. According to Facebook's own investigation, Instagram made a third of teenage girls surveyed feel worse about their body image. Among teens who reported suicidal thoughts, 13% of British users, 6% of American users, all traced back to Instagram. So if I end up feeling icky, which sometimes I often do, or anxious from Instagram, can you imagine how a teenager feels? Not to even forget the fact that these users, these developers, they make sure the app is as addictive as possible, because how do they make money? They make money from keeping you on. So whatever they need to do to give you dopamine, whether it's likes, whether it's different ads, whatever it may be, they're going to make sure that those teenagers stay on.
So are we going to hold the people from Candy Crush to the same standard?
I honestly, I'm not going to even talk about adults right now. I don't think it's appropriate, and I know this is a slippery slope.
It's tough.
I do not think it's appropriate for teenagers to be on social apps.
It's tough. I mean, I agree. I really do. I think it's almost literally like opening up the whole world, and I think as a kid you need to slowly get into it, but sometimes that horse is already out of the barn and the kid is already in there. So like, what do you guys think?
Listen, I don't think we're developed enough as human beings to handle this type of technology, right?
Passed us up.
It's and our brains aren't handling it, and I don't think people realize how detrimental that is to adults and especially teen girls. It's a fact. I don't know if you could prove it in court, but it's a fact that suicide is up in teen girls directly related to social media. I know this guy represents Facebook and Instagram. He makes a lot of money doing it, but the people who invented it, like you said, say it's addictive. I don't even let my own kids on there. If you guys are confused about letting your kids on or who's right and who's wrong, check out The Social Dilemma on Netflix and learn a lot about what's really going on with social media.
Obviously, I'm the only one who's not a parent on this panel, but I do think that there needs to be personal accountability, and the moment that we aren't taking personal accountability for what's happening in your household is problematic. You can't always be popular with your children, and parents need to step in and take control of the situation as well, as much as they can. You can't constantly point the fingers at people and not point the finger and take responsibility for what you're allowing in your household.
I totally agree.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. Yeah, and work on
Absolutely.
their self-esteem and playing outside and different things like that. Yeah.
We'll be right back.
We all know. Rapid tests, also known as antigen tests, have been approved for at-home use for months now. They aren't as accurate as the PCR nose swab tests you get at a clinic, but results are available quickly and without the hassle of a long line. Unfortunately, the kits can be pretty hard to find in stores, but that isn't the case everywhere. In Europe, at-home COVID test kits are widely available and often free or very cheap. So why don't you have as many here in the U.S.? Well, the New York Times says it all comes down to how we approve new medicines and products. The FDA has a very strict set of standards that at-home test kits have to meet. Companies have to prove their test is nearly as sensitive as the PCR swab test, and so far only a few brands have made the cut. But some health experts argue we don't need perfect at-home kits, we just need good enough. There's a growing argument for the FDA to accept less sensitive at-home kits so they can be more widely available. Research shows even the less accurate kits are still pretty good at identifying symptomatic cases of COVID, and with tests in such high demand, some experts argue anything is better than nothing.
I'm with the federal branch of the BWI, the Bureau of
Witchcraft Investigations. I'm familiar.
I've been dispatched to follow up on a report of suspicious activity. May I come in?
Detective, I assure you, there are no witches here.
Scary. That was a snippet from the new movie Witch Hunt with actress Elizabeth Mitchell. She's also currently starring in Netflix's top-rated series Outer Banks, and she joins us live. Elizabeth, welcome
Killing
to PBL.
it,
Hi.
yes.
Great. Great to see you. So people also know you, of course, from Lost. In fact, a lot of people in our studio are like, oh my gosh, she was my favorite character in Lost. Also in The Purge. Now you're in Witch Hunt, this new movie. We just saw the snippet, just in time for Halloween. James Corden, and we talked about it here on the show, recently went on a rant about how he hates Halloween. How do you feel about the holiday? And do you typically watch scary movies?
I don't so much, and I dress up all the time. I mean, that's the thing, you know, I like, you know, weddings and stuff. I'm like, oh, well, that's you know, you always get dressed up as an actor. So I don't really get dressed up, but I do put out tons of candy, and I get very excited by all the costumes that come my way. But it's probably not my first choice holiday. It's not terrible.
Let me ask you this, Elizabeth. Witch Hunt isn't your stereotypical movie about witches and casting spells. Explain how this is not a typical scary movie, and tell us about your character specifically.
I've been doing this for a long time.
Well, it's a very interesting show because it's what if witchcraft were happening in real life? I mean, that's the idea. And what happens to your powers, I guess? What happens to policing of witchcraft? And my character is Martha, and she runs a safe house for witches, and then all kinds of scary, intriguing, heartbreaking stuff happens. It's really kind of nice. It's a sweet movie.
So Elizabeth, before we started talking right now, I called our mutual friend Bob Merrick, who we both know.
Okay.
And I said, you got anything interesting? There you go. I go, you got anything interesting I could ask Elizabeth? He told me that you do handstands before you go on auditions, or maybe to get rid of the nerves. What's with that?
Is that true?
Well, it's my theory that we don't do great work when we're wanting to be good, right? So the first thing that I do is make a complete fool of myself, and I feel like it helps tremendously. So I'll stand on my hands or do a headstand and talk to people, and generally try to not be in any way, shape, or form trying to impress people, and then I find the work is better. Really, it's not
oddly enough, that kind of makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. It kind of puts something else in your control that you felt out of control about. So
yeah. Oh, I love that way of putting it. Yeah. That's wise. That's true.
You're welcome. You could have that one. Okay, so
I do. I'm taking it.
Yeah. Well, we always talk about how much representation matters, and something that makes Witch Hunt special is that you got to work with a lot of women, including the director and most of the cast. So how did that help tell this particular story?
Oh, I love that. I mean, it is in its core a show about women's power and what happens when women get powerful, and I think that having a lot of women tell that story was probably for the best. There's a gentleness, but a real ferocious strength, a velvet hammer strength, let's say. And I really enjoyed the fact that we had Elle helming all of it, because she is absolutely incredible. I feel like so many of the characters are really her. It was a very happy workplace. We all worked very collaboratively. I like to think that's because we're all women, but who knows?
I've been hearing that this is this generation's Goonies. What do you think about that when people compare the show?
Oh, I love that. That's kind of fun. I loved the Goonies. I thought that was great. I think any kind of a treasure hunt movie usually gets compared to the Goonies because it makes us all feel so good, right? So sure. Works for me.
That's a great comparison. I'll take it, yes.
No, it's a cult classic. DBL Nation, you can see Elizabeth's new movie, Witch Hunt, in theaters and on demand this Friday. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Or memes like this one on your social media feeds? The last 4 digits of your phone number describes you. Or a survey asking you to post answers to questions like, who's your childhood best friend? This one asks you to share something called your Star Wars name, using your mother's maiden name and the city in which you were born. Regardless of the intention of these types of posts, they all encourage people to share personal information in their responses.
They will ask you to indicate, what your mother's maiden name is, or what the model of your first car was. And these are security questions, right? For bank accounts, for insurance accounts.
The Better Business Bureau said it's seen an increase in these types of scams during the pandemic, when more people have turned to social media to connect with friends and family. In its 2020 Scam Tracker Risk Report, the Better Business Bureau reported a 24.9% increase in the amount of scam reports it received from 2019 to 2020. It can be very difficult to prosecute these data breaches once your information is exposed, so the key is to avoid engaging with these posts in the first place.
You don't need to be, completely afraid every time you get online, but if something feels fishy, or if something feels like you're giving away too much information, you probably are.
You can use Facebook's Privacy Checkup tool to verify what information on your account is public. If you do post information that could be used to answer security questions, it's best to share it only with people you trust.
Tomorrow on DBL, a missing geologist's family demands action in the wake of Gabby Petito's case getting so much attention.
I'm not going to give up. I'm not leaving until I see him again.
Don't miss this all-new True Crime Chronicles. Plus, Leah Remini will be here live. What does she think about other famous people leaving Scientology? That's tomorrow on DBL.
Wow. Well, we got some comments for you, Jeff.
Oh, really?
Okay, we got, in regard to the interview with Elizabeth, Sarah says, Big Jeff name dropping.
I didn't name, that's a friend who's not famous.
She said, let me elaborate. Big Jeff name dropping mutual friends, LOL.
That's not a name drop. Anyways, I have a comment from Keith and Mary on Facebook. It says, Appalachian alligators can stand on their back 2 feet, often mistaken for Bigfoot.
All right. We help us every day.
Medical researchers put cotton mask material through rigorous testing. No surprise, but some of the cotton fibers started falling apart over time. Scientists say that made it slightly harder to breathe out of. But here's the important part. Researchers say the cloth face masks were still just as effective at filtering out airborne particles. Experts also say washing cloth masks is super important. The agency says just toss it in with the regular laundry when it gets dirty. And that's connecting the dots.
Tori Schulman, Al Jackson, Erica Cobb, Jeff Schroeder, Sam Shocker. This is my show, baby. Celebrating our 5th year and going strong, DBL is always all new every day.
Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Dog the bounty hunter dramatically joins the search for Brian Laundrie. Is he just doing it for attention? An all-new Freedom Files wrongfully convicted. A woman spends more than a decade in prison for a brutal crime that never happened.
It's really hard to hear that you are doing these horrific things to innocent children.
A new Britney Spears documentary shows an even darker side to the conservatorship, what her dad is accused of recording for years. And Broadway is back with the Tony Awards, the big winners and even bigger performances that stole the show.
Oh my gosh.
Are you insane? This is a sham.
No.
Nope.
Y'all, just stop.
Finally here, drum roll.
Welcome to DBL. It is Monday, September 27th. I'm Sam here with my friends Erica, Jeff, and Al. All right, we got to get to this news story that a lot of you actually have quite the opinion on. So reality star Dog the Bounty Hunter, he has joined the Gabby Petito case. So late Saturday, Dog was spotted banging on the door of Brian Laundrie's parents' home in Florida. Brian has been named a person of interest in the case, and he's been missing since September 14th. Here's what Dog, whose real name is Dwayne Chapman, said about it on Fox News.
This kid is an outdoorsman, so I think he went to, again, where he's comfortable, to the outdoors. Within 48 hours, we probably will have a location where we start the tracking at. Catching this guy will not bring that much justification, but it'll make sure he doesn't do it again.
All right, Jeff, what do you think about Dog joining the case?
My first thought is, does he look for people at night? Because he never takes those sunglasses. that was a weird take, I know. But I was just like, man, he always wears sunglasses. Listen, I think the more people that could put eyes on this or bring awareness to it, right? Because it's become this whole like phenomenon now. It's not even like a missing persons case. It's like a cultural thing that we're doing. And I think that's exactly why he's getting involved, is because he wants some notoriety or recognition from this as well. So I think the more eyes on it, the faster that this man will be found.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this is part of a larger issue, and it's just that in order to market yourself, you need to be out there. Right. Everything is on the internet. Dog needs to get his name in the algorithm because nobody has a real job anymore. People are internet sleuths and people are bloggers and vloggers. And so people have to have a hashtag and how they're going to hit me up and keep those likes going and keep those hearts coming, because that's how we make money now. So it's a little scary, Erica, but I don't know if Dog is just part of the greater ethos at this point.
Well, I would have to say that, being an internet sleuth or a blogger or vlogger could absolutely be a job in this day and age. In fact, people are doing far better doing that than some of the 9 to 5s.
Absolutely.
But I think when it comes down to this, I think you're absolutely right as well. The more eyeballs and the more help, the better. But this comes across as super opportunistic, and the idea that if he were truly trying to help in a greater capacity, perhaps he could have done what he apparently is known for doing, and done it on the DL and then come back and said, I actually found him. That would be far more meaningful than being caught on camera, which seemed like more of a, photo op, knocking on someone's door as if that idea wasn't thought of.
A lot of our viewers agree with you calling him opportunistic. I will say, though, at the end of the day, he has 1,000 tips right now. People are calling that number that he gave out to local stations. So I just hope that they find him, and we'll see if they find him alive, because according to local ranchers out there, they believe that if he is at the Appalachian Trail, that he would have probably gotten eaten by an alligator, because there's so many of them right now out there. So we'll see what happens. Wow. Okay, so Gabby Petito's family held a memorial for their 22-year-old daughter in Long Island over the weekend. Gabby's father, Joe Petito, had some advice for people in relationships. Take a look.
If you knew Gabby, she was always pretty happy girl. People would gravitate towards her. Her nature was always to smile and treat everybody kind. If there's a relationship that you're in that might not be the best thing for you, leave it now.
I think this is a reminder, Eric, I want to hear your opinion, but again, you know, we talk about how everyone's invested in this case, but we forget that this family is mourning.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that everyone has forgotten that this family is mourning, and I think that's why a lot of people are reacting the way that they are for anybody who's trying to use this tragedy for personal gain. This is a father who's just lost his daughter, and his first idea is to put out, based on his tragedy, a warning to other people who might see themselves in his daughter's case, in his daughter's situation. And when we get a personal testimony, I call that being a testimony teacher, it's of the utmost generosity, because you could really use your emotions to protect yourself, but to think about others in this time. And even if it's just one person who will think of their domestic violence or toxic relationship different, then that's worth that entire moment.
Well said. I just have a correction before we move on to the next story. Dog the bounty hunter believes he's in the Appalachian Trail. The local ranchers said that if he is indeed in the swamps of Florida, which many of the experts believe, it would be the swamps of Florida where the crocodiles and the alligators would not be a good situation
As
for
opposed
him.
to those mountain gators.
Yeah,
I was worried about
the
those.
altitude gators.
Yeah, that's a
All right.
Division II school. It's okay.
They're fighting gators, Appalachian State.
Okay. All right, we're moving on to the next story. A woman in Maine has found herself in a bit of trouble after her alleged plan to spend more time with her boyfriend went south. Police say she called in a bomb threat to her boyfriend's work so he would be sent home and they could spend more time together. Now she's been arrested and charged with a felony count of terrorizing.
What is wrong with people?
I mean, Sam, we never hear from you. Like, what do you think? How do you handle this? Like, do you think we need to just throw the book at somebody, give her like 15 years just to make a statement? Because that seems like the only thing that works.
Yeah, I think there's got to be stiff consequences, but clearly someone's not in their right frame of mind. And I know that feels like an excuse, but at this, I'm being wrapped. All right. Okay. Coming up on DBL.
I think we all agree.
We're learning about the strict surveillance Britney Spears was under, where private conversations and text messages all copied over to her father. And not only did this woman get accused of a crime she did not commit, the crime never even happened. You don't want to miss this. Brand new Freedom Files. But first, could you be single because of your food habits? A new poll is ranking the worst food-related offenses, and you may want to rethink that double dip. Ooh.
Closed captioning provided by
All right, Erica, you make a good point when I think about Gabby Petito. I think about you because you always bring up, like, I sometimes take the side as like the internet sleuths or reporting on it. And I'm always like, oh, are they going to find her? I don't think about the family right away. And I think a lot of people, that gets away from them. This is somebody's daughter. This is a person that's missing, you know, and all these people are taking advantage of that situation to get their names out there, similar to what Dog is doing. I mean, I think he's doing the greater good, but he's not doing it 100% without any recognition.
Right. I think there's definitely can be two schools of thought. Like, obviously, if someone is in danger and they're missing, and there's this, obviously a lot of sensationalism happening because she was a public figure, that can be helpful. But when people are doing it with the intention of self-promotion, how helpful is it in that capacity? You know, like, if there are 1,000 people who have called in, are those people calling in on behalf of the idea that they're fans of Dog the Bounty Hunter? Or are they calling in because they have real information? And that slows down, you know, the process as well for authorities. So I think that there can be two schools of thought simultaneously.
Yeah. I think Dog, it's his job, but how about the people who don't have a job, and this is what they're doing? They're recording everything, and I'm looking for Gabby, I'm looking for this, and they're out there trying. They're making a name for them.
I think a lot of people are opportunistic in this case, and it's really sad. Because I hope it's not. I hope it's not distracting the actual real evidence out there, you know, and the real
people stomping around.
That's
all
what I
over
was going
there.
to say.
Yeah.
More than distracting, what if somebody stomps to a crime scene?
Right.
They definitely are.
You know,
they definitely are.
it's a big deal.
And shout out, what's up? Who's this guy?
I know,
Jeray's back.
Jeray's
Is that crazy?
And we got over here Kiri, and then we got Destiny over there. Hair.
It's so crazy.
And we're welcoming Sierra. Welcome back to DBL. Do table manners matter to you, especially when it comes to someone you're interested in romantically? According to a new survey, 3 out of 5 people would end a date over bad food habits. So which ones are the most annoying? We're going to break it down. Here we go. 68% say it's talking with your mouth full. 64% can't stand loud chewing. 63% can't take it when their date chews with their mouth open. But get this, only 44% of people are bothered by someone who double dips. All right, Jeff, I got to start with you. Any of these, all deal breakers?
Yeah, I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them. But you know,
you don't like them, or they're deal breakers?
Yeah, deal breakers.
That's a difference.
Okay, so I don't like them. I'll explain.
Okay.
You know what a deal breaker for me is how you treat the waiter or waitress. If you're running them around and you ordered something, you go, can I get arugula instead of romaine, or can I get more lemons, or can I get this grain instead of that? No, I already foresee the future. You're very difficult. We're never going to dinner again. Chew with your mouth open. Enjoy yourself.
Erica, any deal breakers that we just listed?
I have to say, the double dipping thing just really drives me crazy, because you are not accounting for anyone else. If you're eating as a community, you need to love thy neighbor enough to know that that is inappropriate to be putting your germs into a community bowl.
Can you
not
share
okay.
with our viewers what you told me a few weeks ago about, like, you had to go to the opposite side of the room? And I do this too with my husband. You had to go to the opposite side of the room when you guys were eating soup.
Yes, the slurping. I cannot do the slurping. And it's at the point where my husband knows that if I just kind of like calmly, I have to just sit there and look at him like, are you almost done? Because I can't, it's just like scratching on a chalkboard. I do not like slurping.
Okay, but can I pose something else? Anthony is a wonderful man.
Okay.
If you guys went on a date and he slurped the first time, and then you never went out with him again, think about the incredible partner you would miss out because of slurping. So was that worth it?
I'm not saying that it's a deal breaker. Now we have to get divorced.
No, I'm
just
saying this was
simply
like a first date. If he had done that on the first date.
Because these are habits some people don't even realize that they have.
Yeah.
So the true test is if you say something to someone in a loving way, like, I understand that pho is so delicious. I mean, we all understand that now. But maybe you could just eat it a little quieter.
No way.
Yes.
Yes.
No,
What?
that's like condescending.
No, it's
not condescending. That's
I'd rather
like
you just tell me, I'd rather you be like, listen, that's you're getting a little loud with the soup.
Oh,
Not
so you like that? Like when you sat next to me and you used to smack your gums with a banana, I'd be like, yo, you and the banana. And you'd be like, okay, and you'd go take your banana elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Just tell me. Don't be condescending and be like, what, did you make a euphemism?
No, I didn't. I don't know why that go. Any deal breakers for you?
Yeah, I think small things are a little red flag. And if somebody's doing something that's annoying you the first time you ever meet them, it is going to be stretched out over a longer amount of time. So cut your losses early.
You would cut your losses early if you met your dream girl, but God forbid.
But I don't know if she's my dream girl yet.
Well, what if you thought she was your dream girl, but the one thing that bothered you was her chewing with her mouth open?
I think that's going to lead to other things. If you don't know to keep your mouth shut, what else don't you know? Facts, though.
Wow.
Tell him, Al.
What's that face for?
It
Like,
just
if you
feels
don't know,
aggressive.
if you don't know not to chew with your mouth open at lunch,
stop with the slurping.
No,
it's
chew
like
with
there are different.
Erica, if I'm
different
chewing,
people have different ways to communicate, and they receive things differently. So I like to go in with kid gloves first, and then I can be an aggressive Jeff and bring the Chicago out.
Yeah, I'd rather start with the
back.
aggressive. I'd rather start with
you just don't call.
Yeah, just begin, and it's disgusting.
Rapid tests, also known as antigen tests, have been approved for at-home use for months now. They aren't as accurate as the PCR nose swab tests you get at a clinic, but results are available quickly and without the hassle of a long line. Unfortunately, the kits can be pretty hard to find in stores, but that isn't the case everywhere. In Europe, at-home COVID test kits are widely available and often free or very cheap. So why don't you have as many here in the U.S.? Well, the New York Times says it all comes down to how we approve new medicines and products. The FDA has a very strict set of standards that at-home test kits have to meet. Companies have to prove their test is nearly as sensitive as the PCR swab test, and so far only a few brands have made the cut. But some health experts argue we don't need perfect at-home kits, we just need good enough. There's a growing argument for the FDA to accept less sensitive at-home kits so they can be more widely available. Research shows even the less accurate kits are still pretty good at identifying symptomatic cases of COVID. And with tests in such high demand, some experts argue anything is better than nothing.
Welcome back to DBL. Imagine being imprisoned for more than a decade for a horrific crime that never occurred. It happened to a group of women dubbed the San Antonio Four. Earlier, we spoke with one of them. That's today's Freedom Files, wrongfully convicted.
Sometimes the weight of a secret can be crushing. And 18-year-old Ana Vasquez is holding her secret close.
I have always been a lesbian. At the age of like 7 or 8, I was interested in girls. Was I out? No, I wasn't.
The only people who know are her closest friends, Liz, Christy, and Cassandra.
They were also kind of dealing with the same thing, dealing with the same issues in their own lives.
In July of 1994, the women hang out with Liz while she watches her 7-year-old and 9-year-old nieces. But Ana notices a dark cloud over the little girl's father.
He wanted to be in a relationship with Liz. When he found out that Elizabeth was a lesbian, he just didn't like it.
Less than a year later, the 4 women are indicted after the young girls say they were molested by the group during their summer stay. The girls' Aunt Liz is dubbed the ringleader. She is convicted and sentenced to 37.5 years in prison. Exactly 1 year later, Ana and the remaining 2 women stand trial together. Liz's nieces take the stand in both trials.
My emotions to hearing what the little girls were saying was very heartbreaking, in disbelief, shock. It's really hard to hear that you are doing these horrific things to innocent children.
As a final blow, the prosecution puts a doctor on the stand.
The thing that hurt us was the pediatrician and what she testified to as being signs of sexual trauma.
All 3 women are found guilty of aggravated sexual assault of a child and indecency with a child. They are sentenced to 15 years in prison. Ana quickly learns that her sexual assault conviction puts her in harm's way, so she lies.
For a very long time, I always said that I was in prison for aggravated assault. You know, like I can look like a badass, right?
Then in 2006, a professor who is studying female sex offenders reaches out.
He did his own research on us, on the case, and reached out to an organization that focused on child sexual abuse and the LGBTQ community.
While the Dallas Integrity Unit reinvestigates the case, the youngest victim recants her testimony. Then the pediatrician comes forward.
She said, "This is not true, and had I known the science back then, I would have never testified to it. And I'll never testify to that science now."
In 2016, the San Antonio Four are exonerated.
And the feeling was just, in a sense, it was like, you see, I told you so.
All 4 women are declared innocent.
Ana, thank you so much for joining us here in DBL. Your story is really important.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So looking back on your case, What, and I know a lot of it must upset you, but is there one specific moment or person that upsets you the most?
There is a pediatrician that was the quote unquote expert witness in this case that, you know, kind of identified us as satanic worshipers at the time. Being so young that I wasn't really familiar of my surroundings in what people were thinking at that particular time.
I'm sorry. I'm shaking my head. I can't believe that Satan was introduced at her trial, and you have to give me a second because I've read this and it's still shocking to me. What was more shocking is, like, after prison, you were able to meet with one of the girls that testified against you. What did you learn about her story in that meeting?
You know, to be honest with you, it was everything that I thought could have happened. This was being told to her to say these horrible things about me. And it was just confirmed during that meeting. You know, she was so brave to be able to come out to tell the truth. Unfortunately, going against her family and being kicked out of what she ever knew, but she was so strong, and I completely commend her for that.
You know, in the early 90s, unfortunately, there were a lot of stereotypes about the LGBTQ community. How did those stereotypes impact your case specifically? And do you believe that your case would have had a different outcome if it happened today in 2021?
That's a very good question. You know, do I think that it might have been a different time today? You know, maybe it wouldn't have gone as far as it did. But unfortunately, because I'm dealing with the Innocence Project of Texas as their outreach and education, I still continue to see these flaws in our system. Do I think that it played a part, being a part of the LGBTQ community back then? Absolutely. The stereotype was horrific. There was no public display of affection out there like it is today. You know, it's so much more accepting. But back then, when I was accused of this, it was not accepted at all. It was almost like I was in hiding for so long.
After your exoneration, you said that you felt lost, but you were able to find your purpose again. How did you do that?
You know, I'm one of the fortunate ones, and I thank God every day for that. Because there are so many people that don't find themselves again. They cannot get over the fact that this happened to them, and, you know, they've lost so many years of their life. Even though I am completely innocent, I was, you know, compensated by the state of Texas. My record completely, expunged. I still have problems with coping to society. I have problems with trust issues. I have problems with my relationship. You know, there's just so many different things that I think people don't realize that it does have an effect, and it's a long-lasting effect. There has to be changes.
Well said. And to those looking to help, speaking of which, visit the Innocence Project of Texas.org. There are multiple ways you can get involved in the movement of change. Thank you so much, Anna. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Photos or memes like this one on your social media feeds? The last 4 digits of your phone number describes you. Or a survey asking you to post answers to questions like, who's your childhood best friend? This one asks you to share something called your Star Wars name, using your mother's maiden name and the city in which you were born. Regardless of the intention of these types of posts, they all encourage people to share personal information in their responses.
They will ask you to indicate, you know, what your mother's maiden name is, or what the model of your first car was. And these are security questions, right? For bank accounts, for insurance accounts.
The Better Business Bureau said it's seen an increase in these types of scams during the pandemic, when more people have turned to social media to connect with friends and family. In its 2020 Scam Tracker Risk Report, the Better Business Bureau reported a 24.9% increase in the amount of scam reports it received from 2019 to 2020. It can be very difficult to prosecute these data breaches once your information is exposed. So the key is to avoid engaging with these posts in the first place.
You don't need to be, completely afraid every time you get online, but If something feels fishy or if something feels like you're giving away too much information, you probably are.
You can use Facebook's privacy checkup tool to verify what information on your account is public. If you do post information that could be used to answer security questions, it's best to share it only with people you trust.
We love sharing your comments. In fact, Katie H. said, I'm about to divorce my husband over loud chewing.
It's an issue. But what if he's
You're not
good
alone.
overall?
What do you mean?
If you're leaving us right now, you can watch the second half of the show online. Watch on YouTube, dailyblastlive.com, or our DBL mobile app. But if you're sticking around, here's what's coming up. Bombshell reports of the strict surveillance Britney Spears was forced into by her father. Could he really read all of her text messages? And who won big at last night's Tony Awards? We're going to chat about the night's best moments.
Medical researchers put cotton mask material through rigorous testing. No surprise, but some of the cotton fibers started falling apart over time. Scientists say that made it slightly harder to breathe out of. But here's the important part. Researchers say the cloth face masks were still just as effective at filtering out airborne particles. Experts also say washing cloth masks is super important. The agency says just toss it in with the regular laundry when it gets dirty. And that's connecting the dots.
Tori Schulman, Al Jackson, Erica Cobb, Jeff Schroeder, Sam Shocker. This is my show, baby. Celebrating our 5th year and going strong, DBL is always all new every day.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Are you in
insane? This is a sham.
No.
Nope.
Y'all, just
It's
stop.
finally here. Drum roll. Welcome to DBL. I'm Sam here with Erica, Jeff, and Al. Let's get started.
Al's got his light
Oh
on.
my gosh, your flashlight's on, Al.
Is it really?
Yes.
No,
you
how
don't
old are
see
you,
it?
dude? What's going on there?
Oh my
Come
gosh.
on, man, I'm tired. I was trying to shine a light on the audience.
Good one.
Well, it was face down, and
pretty
you
good.
guys.
It's still on. Just handle it. Okay. Another documentary about Britney Spears dropped over the weekend. Controlling Britney Spears alleges that Britney's dad monitored her every move. According to a former staff member of Britney's security team, which was hired by her dad, Britney was under intense surveillance. He said all her conversations were secretly recorded, even in her bedroom. This included conversations with her kids and boyfriend. Watch.
Every single request was monitored and recorded. It really reminded me of somebody that was in prison. And security was put in a position to be the prison guards, essentially.
In a statement, Jamie Spears' lawyer said Britney was aware of the surveillance and all of his actions were within the parameters of Britney's conservatorship. Erica, what do you make of this?
I don't know what to make of it. It seems like a lot of people knew a lot of things and chose now as the appropriate time to say something about it. It just, I question why people didn't come forward with this information earlier.
And I'm a little confused. Did the court order that? Because she's got a court-ordered IUD in, which I say all the time, which seems crazy to me already. So did the court in some way have control to monitor her phones? I'm a little confused.
I think it boils down really quickly to conservatorship laws, right? So it may fall under conservatorship laws. What I think Britney and many people are attesting to is how severely mentally unstable do you have to be to warrant all of this conservatorship parameters. So if it is somebody who is a danger to themselves, a danger to their children, who can't think for themselves, have Alzheimer's, perhaps surveillance and everything under the sun is appropriate. Is Britney, we had Mark Eiglarsh on the show, attorney. You remember Mark Eiglarsh said in his own words that he didn't feel that Britney fell under conservatorship because it's for the most, people that need the most help.
People that are in comas.
Yeah, and if you have a severe mental illness, even that most of the time doesn't fall under conservatorship. So they might be within the realm of it, but perhaps Britney should never have been under a conservatorship.
Sam, I agree with you, and I think a lot of times you're asking questions, Jeff and Sam, you're asking questions, and I think a lot of times these things are opaque. I think when we start talking about mental health, it's not like Erica on the 19th, I'm going to relapse. It's like sometimes when you realize that somebody that you love is kind of losing the thread a little bit, it's too late, or they're gone, or, they were kind of falling off, but then they started back on their meds and they got back on it. So it's a very hard thing to call. So when do you call the conservatorship? When do you call it off? Who can call it off if you no longer can? I
agree with you, Al. I mean, in a normal situation, but I've always said, we've always come to the same sentiment. Britney Spears has never been treated like a human since we first were introduced to her. She's always been treated like a machine. And at the end of the day, I don't feel like anyone was really looking out for her well-being in this conservatorship. It was about protecting that machine and protecting that cash cow. So when I ask why are people coming forward now, the far more noble and braver thing to do would have been to make these allegations at this point transparent when Britney was being spied on when she was trying to get a new attorney, which apparently was something she was trying to do, and she was blocked from doing so because they had all of this documentation of her interactions and her records. So anyone who's coming forward and trying to look at be a hero in this moment and had all this information for years when they knew that this woman was being imprisoned, as this man just said, I'm giving them a side eye. Why now?
I think here's the biggest part about this case is, are your intentions nefarious or not? If this was somebody that had good intentions to make sure that they're not going to harm themselves or their children, perhaps under conservatorship protocols, they can listen in on certain things. But to listen in, to have your thumb over them, to make sure that they don't find a new attorney, to make sure that they don't do things to remove you from conservatorship, that points in the direction of nefarious purposes. And I also think the biggest red flag here, if you are, according to Jamie Spears, well enough mentally to go tour and make money, then how are you well enough to not well enough to go and tend to your own personal orders? That's where another red flag came up for me. So I'm glad that she has her own attorney now. I'm glad that he's been removed from conservatorship. To me, there's just way too much smoke. All right, so the Tony Awards made a big return last night. Moulin Rouge, based on the Nicole Kidman film, was the big winner with 10 awards. No surprise there. Aaron Tveit won for his role in Moulin Rouge, but get this, he was the only one nominated. And Adrienne Warren won a Tony for her performance in Tina, the Tina Turner musical. And Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel returned to the stage to sing For Good from the musical Wicked. Take a look. Love me a good musical.
Wicked. That's a good one. It's a good one. Listen, the Tonys aren't as popular as the other award shows, and there's too many, I think, in my opinion. But I wanted to make fun of this, but I'm going to compliment them. Because when I think of actors and talented people, I think of musicals, right? I think anybody, including me, could go up there and learn your lines for the day and kind of act a certain way and have CGI behind you. To go up there for 2 hours and memorize every place you have to be with every word, sing, dance, move, it's really a talent. It really is. And I think they need way more credit, and I don't think a lot of people tune into the Tonys or really care what's going on. But I do want to give them props because, to me, that is a huge talent.
Yeah, and it spills over because you feel it. When I went to Hamilton, I was like crying, and I was not ready. I was just like, there's tears.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel it. Like as a dude, you're not like, I'm going to cry at this play. I was a mess.
Well, there's a lot of emotion in there, but also it's important for people to remember that the curtains have lifted. Broadway is reopened. This was a major milestone for the theater community. So although it wasn't as jam-packed in terms of people who were nominated this year, because it's been 15 months since the curtains have opened and gone up, this was a major, major thing for a lot of people in the theater community and for the arts in general.
And again, these people aren't sitting in their mansions, right, when 15 months. They had to get jobs, right, because they don't get paid a lot on Broadway. So they're really putting in the work, and I want to applaud them for that.
I love that.
Look at me. Look at Big Jeff on a Monday.
Oh, my gosh. All right. How much would you pay for a pair of Michael Jordan's underwear? Someone paid $2,700 for a pair of MJ's worn undies at an auction over the weekend. The gray and black boxers were donated by MJ's friend and former bodyguard, and even includes a dry cleaning tag with Michael's name on it.
I'm gonna get Jeff's back on this.
Oh.
But and when I said
Jeff's opinion though.
I know I was saying what you were saying last time about like wanting to make fun of it, but then kind of understanding. Everything has value to somebody.
Copying me.
Okay, there we go. I'm lazy. I'm intellectually lazy. But this has value to somebody. Like, I watched the show Love After Lockup with my girl, and we always talk about what we would pay for a random item from that show. And I mean, we're like, I'd pay $500 for that napkin.
Whoa.
Like, literally, because it means so much. And there is something goofy or silly that you would pay some money for because it has value to you. So I'm going to ask you, is there anything?
Put a price tag on those underwear.
I'm not an MJ fan. LeBron?
Okay, LeBron underwear.
No.
What would you pay for it?
What's that?
What would you pay for LeBron underwear?
I would not.
Oh.
You buy a napkin from Love After Lockup?
Absolutely.
And you wouldn't get a LeBron underwear?
Absolutely.
Would you buy Justin Bieber's underwear?
Bieber, what would you pay for Bieb socks? Bieb socks.
No, he has Bieb socks.
No, that Bieber
I don't
wore.
want like anything that personal.
No.
That's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
Maybe like a shoe from his concert or something.
Cool.
Like autograph.
What would you pay? What's the ceiling?
$10.
$500?
No way. No way.
Erica,
Dude,
you're a
you
big
kidding me?
fan.
$500 for a Bieb shoe?
Yeah.
Erica, would you ever, let's say you had all the money in the world, Okay, let's take money out of this. You had enough money. Would you buy anything from your favorite celebrity? Whether they wore it, didn't wear it?
Well, Janet Jackson did wear these like super awesome bracelets that had these like little balls in it. So every time she would move, you would hear the shh. And there was like 7 of them, and I just stared at them the entire time. Like I would pay for those.
Okay.
I haven't forgot. It's been like 15 years. I haven't forgotten those bracelets.
Gwen Stefani underwear. What's your price tag?
I'm not as in love with Gwen Stefani as you guys think I am.
You made a board out of paper mache.
Sam, that was like really disturbing.
Okay.
You were picked out of the audience.
I did
it's lit up with
her.
Christmas lights.
I know, and I did when I got next to her and we took a selfie on stage. I did go, she smelled beautiful.
So how much for underwear?
I would never buy her underwear. That's disgusting. Sure. No, we'll be right back.
Closed captioning provided by
So we're going. So we're talking. Hey, we're talking.
We have a mutual friend.
What were we talking about?
Yeah. How'd you know that?
Oh, the different things that you would buy. I'm not into like memorabilia, personal memorabilia, but there are some really cool items that like, you're like, oh, you know, like the actual scarf that Janet Jackson wrapped her braids in Poetic Justice, stuff like that where you're like, I guess I'm really on this Janet Jackson thing, but she did have the most awesome bracelets. And then I complimented her. I did an interview with her like 15 years ago, and she's like, oh, they were from some super fancy place that I still can't afford to purchase from, but I would totally get them if I had all the money in the world. Yes.
Tori Shulman, Al Jackson, Erica Cobb, Jeff Schroeder, Sam Shocker. This is my show, baby. Celebrating our 5th year and going strong, DBL is always all new every day. Welcome back to DBL. Facebook is hitting back against reports that its Instagram app is bad for the mental health of teenagers, especially teen girls. They're also putting their plans to roll out a version of the app for kids on hold. Here's what the head of Instagram said on the Today Show.
I have to believe that a world where there's a version of Instagram that's designed for tweens, one where there's no ads, where there's age-appropriate content, and one where a parent can choose to let their child use it and control things like who they follow and who they message, is better than the alternative. I do want to be very clear that if anybody leaves using Instagram feeling worse about themselves, that's an important issue that we need to take seriously and that we need to figure out how to address.
Wow. Well, unfortunately, a lot of teens feel worse about themselves when they go on Instagram. According to Facebook's own investigation, Instagram made a third of teenage girls surveyed feel worse about their body image. Among teens who reported suicidal thoughts, 13% of British users, 6% of American users, all traced back to Instagram. So if I end up feeling icky, which sometimes I often do, or anxious from Instagram, can you imagine how a teenager feels? Not to even forget the fact that these users, these developers, they make sure the app is as addictive as possible, because how do they make money? They make money from keeping you on. So whatever they need to do to give you dopamine, whether it's likes, whether it's different ads, whatever it may be, they're going to make sure that those teenagers stay on.
So are we going to hold the people from Candy Crush to the same standard?
I honestly, I'm not going to even talk about adults right now. I don't think it's appropriate, and I know this is a slippery slope.
It's tough.
I do not think it's appropriate for teenagers to be on social apps.
It's tough. I mean, I agree. I really do. I think it's almost literally like opening up the whole world, and I think as a kid you need to slowly get into it, but sometimes that horse is already out of the barn and the kid is already in there. So like, what do you guys think?
Listen, I don't think we're developed enough as human beings to handle this type of technology, right?
Passed us up.
It's and our brains aren't handling it, and I don't think people realize how detrimental that is to adults and especially teen girls. It's a fact. I don't know if you could prove it in court, but it's a fact that suicide is up in teen girls directly related to social media. I know this guy represents Facebook and Instagram. He makes a lot of money doing it, but the people who invented it, like you said, say it's addictive. I don't even let my own kids on there. If you guys are confused about letting your kids on or who's right and who's wrong, check out The Social Dilemma on Netflix and learn a lot about what's really going on with social media.
Obviously, I'm the only one who's not a parent on this panel, but I do think that there needs to be personal accountability, and the moment that we aren't taking personal accountability for what's happening in your household is problematic. You can't always be popular with your children, and parents need to step in and take control of the situation as well, as much as they can. You can't constantly point the fingers at people and not point the finger and take responsibility for what you're allowing in your household.
I totally agree.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
work on their self-esteem and playing outside and different things like that. Yeah.
We'll be right back.
We all know. Rapid tests, also known as antigen tests, have been approved for at-home use for months now. They aren't as accurate as the PCR nose swab tests you get at a clinic, but results are available quickly and without the hassle of a long line. Unfortunately, the kits can be pretty hard to find in stores, but that isn't the case everywhere. In Europe, at-home COVID test kits are widely available and often free or very cheap. So why don't you have as many here in the U.S.? Well, the New York Times says it all comes down to how we approve new medicines and products. The FDA has a very strict set of standards that at-home test kits have to meet. Companies have to prove their test is nearly as sensitive as the PCR swab test, and so far only a few brands have made the cut. But some health experts argue we don't need perfect at-home kits, we just need good enough. There's a growing argument for the FDA to accept less sensitive at-home kits so they can be more widely available. Research shows even the less accurate kits are still pretty good at identifying symptomatic cases of COVID, and with tests in such high demand, some experts argue anything is better than nothing.
I'm with the federal branch of the BWI, the Bureau of
Witchcraft Investigations. I'm familiar.
I've been dispatched to follow up on reports of suspicious activity. May I come in?
Detective, I assure you, there are no witches here.
Scary. That was a snippet from the new movie Witch Hunt with actress Elizabeth Mitchell. She's also currently starring in Netflix's top-rated series Outer Banks, and she joins us live. Elizabeth, welcome to BBL.
Killing it,
Hi.
yes.
Great. Great to see you. So people also know you, of course, from Lost. In fact, a lot of people in our studio are like, oh my gosh, she was my favorite character in Lost. Also in The Purge. Now you're in Witch Hunt, this new movie. We just saw the snippet, just in time for Halloween. James Corden, and we talked about it here on the show, recently went on a rant about how he hates Halloween. How do you feel about the holiday? And do you typically watch scary movies?
I don't so much, and I dress up all the time. I mean, that's the thing, you know, I like, you know, weddings and stuff. I'm like, oh, well, that's you always get dressed up as an actor. So I don't really get dressed up, but I do put out tons of candy, and I get very excited by all the costumes that come my way. But it's probably not my first choice holiday. It's not terrible.
Let me ask you this, Elizabeth. Witch Hunt isn't your stereotypical movie about witches and casting spells. Explain how this is not a typical scary movie, and tell us about your character specifically.
I've been doing this for a long time.
Well, it's a very interesting show because it's what if witchcraft were happening in real life? I mean, that's the idea. And what happens to your powers, I guess? What happens to policing of witchcraft? And my character is Martha, and she runs a safe house for witches, and then all kinds of scary, intriguing, heartbreaking stuff happens. It's really kind of nice. It's a sweet movie.
So Elizabeth, before we started talking right now, I called our mutual friend Bob Merrick, who we both know.
Okay.
And I said, you got anything interesting? There you go. I go, you got anything interesting I could ask Elizabeth? He told me that you do handstands before you go on auditions, or maybe to get rid of the nerves. What's with that?
Is that true?
Well, it's my theory that we don't do great work when we're wanting to be good, right? So the first thing that I do is make a complete fool of myself, and I feel like it helps tremendously. So I'll stand on my hands or do a headstand and talk to people, and generally try to not be in any way, shape, or form trying to impress people, and then I find the work is better. Really, it's not odd.
Oddly enough, that kind of makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. It kind of puts something else in your control that you felt out of control about. So.
Yeah. Oh, I love that way of putting it. Yeah. That's wise. That's true.
You're welcome. You could have that one. Okay, so
I do. I'm taking it.
Yeah. Well, we always talk about how much representation matters, and something that makes Witch Hunt special is that you got to work with a lot of women, including the director and most of the cast. So how did that help tell this particular story?
Oh, I love that. I mean, it is in its core a show about women's power and what happens when women get powerful. And I think that having a lot of women tell that story was probably for the best. There's a gentleness, but a real ferocious strength, a velvet hammer strength, let's say. And I really enjoyed the fact that we had Elle helming all of it, because she is absolutely incredible. I feel like so many of the characters are really her. It was a very happy workplace. We all worked very collaboratively. I like to think that's because we're all women, but who knows?
I've been hearing that this is this generation's Goonies. What do you think about that when people compare the show?
Oh, I love that. That's kind of fun. I loved the Goonies. I thought that was great. I think any kind of a treasure hunt movie usually gets compared to the Goonies because it makes us all feel so good, right? So sure, works for me.
That's a great comparison. I'll take it, yes.
No, it's a cult classic. DBL Nation, you can see Elizabeth's new movie, Witch Hunt, in theaters and on demand this Friday. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Seeing photos or memes like this one on your social media feeds? The last 4 digits of your phone number describes you. Or a survey asking you to post answers to questions like, who's your childhood best friend? This one asks you to share something called your Star Wars name, using your mother's maiden name and the city in which you were born. Regardless of the intention of these types of posts, they all encourage people to share personal information in their responses.
They will ask you to indicate what your mother's maiden name is, or what the model of your first car was. And these are security questions, right? For bank accounts, for insurance accounts.
The Better Business Bureau said it's seen an increase in these types of scams during the pandemic, when more people have turned to social media to connect with friends and family. In its 2020 Scam Tracker Risk Report, the Better Business Bureau reported a 24.9% increase in the amount of scam reports it received from 2019 to 2020. It can be very difficult to prosecute these data breaches once your information is exposed, so the key is to avoid engaging with these posts in the first place.
You don't need to be, completely afraid every time you get online, but if something feels fishy or if something feels like you're giving away too much information, you probably are.
You can use Facebook's privacy checkup tool to verify what information on your account is public. If you do post information that could be used to answer security questions, it's best to share it only with people you trust.
Tomorrow on DBL, a missing geologist's family demands action in the wake of Gabby Petito's case getting so much attention.
I'm not going to give up. I'm not leaving until I see him again.
Don't miss this all-new True Crime Chronicles. Plus, Leah Remini will be here live. What does she think about other famous people leaving Scientology? That's tomorrow on DBL.
Wow. Well, we got some comments for you, Jeff.
Oh, really?
Okay, we got, in regard to the interview with Elizabeth, Sarah says, Big Jeff name dropping.
I didn't name, that's a friend who's not famous.
She said, let me elaborate. Big Jeff name dropping mutual friends, LOL.
That's not a name drop. Anyways, I have a comment from Keith and Mary on Facebook. It says, Appalachian alligators can stand on their back 2 feet, often mistaken for Bigfoot.
All right. We all listen every day.